Good evening. We'd like to welcome you to our board meeting. We'd also like to welcome you to our new sound system. As you can see, normally I project very well, and I've already been told, get yourself down. I will try very hard not to talk very loud, but because normally I'm the one that you can hear so well because I have that loud voice, I'll try to do well. But we are very glad that you can be here tonight. We appreciate the turnout. And the first thing that we'll have, of course, is our invocation, which is going to be led tonight by Dr. Ron Godbolt from Word of Truth Ministry. And that'll be followed by our Pledge of Allegiance. If you will, all please rise.
Let us pray. Gracious Father, we thank you for this day you bless us to see. We thank you for life, health, and strength. We thank you for this meeting and the business at hand. We pray now that you would give wisdom and understanding, knowledge of what decisions need to be made. Bless your people, Lord. We give you praise for our men and women, a military that give their lives, that we can have these opportunities, and we give you praise for them. And we ask you to continue to bless us all. Help us to be the people you called us to be. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. At this time, I'd like to announce that our attorney is actually, there's been an accident on his way here, and he hasn't been involved in an accident. There's bad traffic, and he is going to arrive momentarily, but we wanted to go ahead and start so that we could, a lot of things that we can do without him being present. The first thing is we have approval of the agenda, and we do have some recommendations that we move from consent agenda, item C, F, and H, and put those under new business, and that we add under new business, along with those three, that we add the first item would be item C, which would be a park panhandling ordinance discussion. So we'll have under new business, we'll have A, B, C, and then item C from the consent agenda becomes D, and the F becomes E, and the H becomes G. Okay? All right, is there any other additions or deletions to our agenda?
Motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second? Second. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Seeing none opposed. Thank you. We have, tonight I have some presentations, and the first presentation is actually, these are just as far as what's on our agenda, would be the Memorial Day and Tourette Syndrome Day proclamations, and they were provided as requested for the month of May through the mayor's office. They were not on the agenda. They've already been passed out. The next is a proclamation on for June 19th, and this proclamation reads, whereas at 2 p.m. on New Year's Day, January the 1st, 1863, using his war powers as president, Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, providing that all persons held as slaves within any state or designated part of a state shall be thenceforward and forever free. Whereas the Emancipation Proclamation made the permanent abolition of slavery a Union war aim and provided the legal framework for the emancipation of nearly 4 million slaves as the Union armies advanced. Whereas Juneteenth, a blending of the words June and 19th, is the oldest known U.S. celebration of the end of slavery. It commemorates June 19, 1865, when Major General Gordon Granger arrived in Galveston, Texas, and announced the end of both the Civil War and slavery. The people of Texas are informed that in accordance with a proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free. This involves an absolute equality of personal rights and rights of freedom between former masters and slaves, and the connection heretofore existing between them becomes that between employer and hired labor. The freed men are advised to remain at their present homes and work for wages. Whereas Texas began the celebration of Juneteenth in 1866 with community events such as parades, cookouts, prayer gatherings, musical performances, and historical cultural readings, and as freed families immigrated from Texas to other parts of the United States, they carried the Juneteenth celebration with them. Whereas Al Edwards, a freshman state representative, put forward the bill, House Bill 1016 in 1979, making Texas the first state to grant this emancipation celebration. Whereas in 2021, Juneteenth became a federal recognized holiday, and the Hope Mills Board of Commissioners voted to observe the holiday in Hope Mills as well. Now therefore, we, the Hope Mills Board of Commissioners, do hereby proclaim June 19, 2023 as Juneteenth in Hope Mills. And we, this year, that June 19th actually falls on a Monday, so our next board meeting will actually be on June 20th, on Tuesday. Next, we have a proclamation, and I'm very proud to present this proclamation. This is their second time that they've come to Hope Mills, and they've chosen Hope Mills to have this special day. Whereas the Cape Fear Amateur Radio Society will hold field days on June 24th and 25th at Golfview Greenway. Whereas Amateur Radio Emergency Services and Radio Amateur Civil Emergency Services have been trained to provide effective emergency communication and support. Whereas during times of national, state, and local emergency, and for community and public events, amateur radio operators have provided communication resources at no cost. Whereas amateur radio operators provide weather spotting and reporting activities through the Skywarn program and ham radio educational activities, field days are an opportunity for hams to hone in their emergency preparedness skills. Now, therefore, I, Jackie Warner, Mayor of the Town of Hope Mills, do hereby proclaim June 24th and 25th to be Amateur Radio Operator Recognition Day. And at this time, I have a proclamation I'll give to Mr. Don Talbot, who is here with some of the other members, so that it is official. You now have your special day, June 24th and 25th, as Amateur Radio Operator Recognition Day. Thank you all for being here. Yes, introduce them. Yeah. Hello, sir. Thank you for coming. Thank you. You want to get a picture? Sure. Here we go. Come right in. You want to get in here too? I'm going to take that. Okay, we'll cover that up. All right. Thank you. See you.
Y'all are invited on the 24th to come out to the Greenway and Caulfield. Thank you.
All right.
Okay, tab 1. At this time, we have official comments, and which I skipped over. Shouldn't have done that, but I did. And the main reason was because the gentleman here asked that they could be finished, and we set that aside. Next, official comments, and I'll start with Commissioner Legg.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank everyone for coming out. The last 2 weeks for me have been up and down. Had a grandson to get married, and another one that graduated today. And then my brother is back in the hospital in Kentucky. They know he's got pneumonia, but he's trying to recover from cancer. And they're kind of afraid that might have moved down his body to his hip. So I'd like all of you, if you would, please pray for him that he'll come through this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Commissioner Mitchell.
Just want to thank everyone for coming out this evening, and hope we have a very informational meeting. Thank you.
Commissioner Marley. Commissioner Scarola.
Remarks complete.
Mayor Pro Tem McCray.
Thank you for everyone for coming out tonight.
Next on our agenda, we have our public hearing, and this is for fiscal year 2023-2024 budget. After completion of the public hearing, the Board of Commissioners may or may not adopt the proposed budget ordinance and fee schedule. A final copy of the proposed fiscal year 2023-2024 budget book will be handed out at the meeting. So, Mr. Holland, are you ready to? Okay, I'll turn it over to you.
Y'all need to open the public hearing first.
Motion to open public hearing.
Second.
Okay, you want to do the public hearing before we get what you have in your hands? All right, we can do that. All right, motion to open public hearing. At this time, is there anyone here that would like to speak in favor of our proposed 2023-2024 budget? Is there anyone here that would like to speak against our 2023-2024 budget? If so, if you'll come to the microphone and give your name and address, and then you may speak. And that microphone is already on, so it'll pick your voice up much better than used to.
All right, my name is Pat Edwards. I'm at 3513 Shipstone Place. And I'm here on behalf of the senior citizens in Hope Mills. And it's hard enough for them to make their budget now, their personal budgets. And this 4-cent increase is going to affect a lot of them. We have about 2% of Hope Mills is in the upper echelon. The people have money. And the rest of them are either middle class or low income. And I just think that since we have a balanced budget now, that even if you wait 2 years, we would really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, thank you for having me. My name's Kevin Morgan. I live at 1435 Seabiscuit Drive in Cindy, a steeplechase subdivision. I'm recently retired from the Fayetteville Fire Department with 30 years of service as a firefighter. The initial budget workshop, there was the tax was talked about, and listening to that, you guys didn't really have a plan initially what you want to do with the budget. You kind of talked about it openly about bankrolling the money. There wasn't an identified plan about what you wanted to do with the money. Now there seems to be a plan. You've identified that you want to hire some police officers, staff vehicles, some stuff for the Veterans Park, and some other one-time purchases. And all those are very noble things, right? I'm all about public safety, obviously. Come from public safety, I think it's a great thing, right? That's the only item you have there that's a reoccurring cost. That's the only item there that's a reoccurring cost from year to year to year. The staff vehicles, the Veteran Park, hey, I'm a veteran myself. I think it needs to be supported, but it's a one-time cost. Staff vehicles, one-time cost. The tax increase, it's a forever reoccurring cost to the citizens. So what happens next year? What happens the following year? What happens the following year, right? So we identified the cost for police officers. What about the rest of that money? Is that where the bankroll comes in? Is that what's going to happen then? Is that what's going on? I mean, I don't quite understand where we need to have a 4-cent tax increase when we have a balanced budget. Inflation's already high enough for everybody. Food, gas prices are good, goods and services are going up, inflation's skyrocketing for everybody. Town sanitation prices are going up. In your proposed budget, you're talking about a bunch of fees and services are going to go up for everybody in your fee schedule. Everything's going up. And now we want to have a 4-cent tax increase. Just like the last budget, you guys talked openly about it's not really that big of a deal when you break it down. It's not that much money. Well, that's probably the case for most of the people up there that's got a steady income, a retirement check, I mean, what have you, right? If you got a steady source of income, it's probably not that big of a deal. It's probably not going to hurt me that bad. I probably can afford it myself too, right? But what about the people in our community who can't afford it? What about the elderly? We just heard people talking on fixed incomes. What about people living from paycheck to paycheck? It's a big deal to them. I mean, we can be cavalier and say, it's not that big of a deal. We need to break it down. It's only a couple of dollars a month. You know, it's only $100 here or $10 a month here or there, but that's a lot to some people. When the elderly are looking at paying for food or paying for medicine, we're talking about gas prices and egg prices and everything else going up over and over again, and now we're going to throw a 4-cent tax increase on them, and we are cavalier about, it's not that much. It's a problem, you know, and I think that there needs to be more thought put into that. I know there's a shortfall coming to the town, but we got time to plan for that. You know, I think my issue is that initially there wasn't a plan. It was kind of like as a bankroll, and so now it feels like to me there's just backstep and let's justify this and how we're going to make this happen. So I kind of have an issue with it, and I kind of hope you guys will rethink that. It's kind of opened my eyes. To be honest with you, this whole issue's really opened my eyes to what's going on in Hope Mills, and I'm probably going to be paying a whole lot more attention, be a whole lot more engaged, and be a lot more involved. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Yes, ma'am?
Is this about Mayor, warning about the budget?
This is about the budget.
I've signed up for something.
Okay, this is about the budget. Anyone else would like to speak on the budget? Okay, at this time, we'll close public
Motion to
hearing.
close public hearing.
Okay,
Second.
all right. Public hearing is closed. And now, I turn it over to Mr. Holland or turn it over to Mr. McLaughlin.
Okay, I'll begin before I turn it over to Mr. Holland. If you recall, at the budget retreat, I moved to allow, for the first time in years, all department heads to have a presentation to the board so that all the current needs could be articulated to our elected officials. This was done in an effort to provide a true report of the current state of our operations. So even with the tax increase, there are still unmet needs of the departments that operate the services we provide to the town of Hope Mills, because in the process of balancing this budget, we were still unable to meet these needs. So I'm gonna go through each department and I'm gonna outline the requests that were made from these departments based on their needs and the fact that we were not able to actually meet those in this budget. Administration, Deputy Town Clerk. Currently, the town operates with a town clerk and a deputy town clerk that also serves as the public information officer as well as an executive assistant to the town manager. This initial request was to create a new position. There was a request to create a new position which would add a third member to the administrative staff while allowing the current position to remain as the PIO and executive assistant. This request was cut from the budget, which means that we still have a deputy town clerk assuming 3 separate roles. Human Resources, Risk Safety Specialist. Our previous risk and safety specialist retired recently, so there was a request to create that position under the HR department. As that request was cut from the budget, the current recommendation is for the HR director to assume that role in addition to her current workload. Planning and Economic Development. Planning. In January 2022, the town of Hope Mills took over 90% of all planning and zoning operations from Cumberland County Planning Department, which at that time was a 6 to 7 person department with a plan of growing our department from 2 positions. As I have assumed the role of town manager, there was a request to create a second planner position in the department, which would still mean that we're operating much below staff levels. This request was cut from the budget, with one planner assuming all of the current workload while I am still moonlighting as the planning director as well as the town manager. Code enforcement. At the budget retreat, a presentation was outlined that focused on the desire for a 4-quadrant approach for code enforcement, as the current staff remains at 2 officers for the entire town of Hope Mills. As other municipalities operate at roughly 4 times that number of staff, we have operated at this level for the past 3 years, with the previous 10+ years operating with only 1 code enforcement officer for the entire town. In addition, the 2 town vehicles that they utilize have a combined Kelly Blue Book value of $2,400, with us spending upwards of $7,000 in maintenance this past fiscal year alone. There was a request for a 3rd code enforcement officer and 3 new trucks, which was cut from this budget in light of the ability to only purchase 1 new truck. The other officer will utilize the most operational older truck, but we will still operate code enforcement with a 2-person team for the entire town of Hope Mills. Police. The police department requested 9 additional officers in this current budget. As the town of Hope Mills limits are expanding at a massive level, the jurisdiction of our police department is expanding as well. Without the ability to utilize closest unit dispatch as our fire department does, the increases in town boundaries equate to a need for more officers. Out of the 9 officers that were requested, all of them were cut from this budget. With the uptick in crime in recent months, the request to raise taxes would afford the town the ability to at least create 2 or 3 of these positions. Fire. With the new public safety center nearing completion, the fire department requested 3 additional firefighters. All of these requests were cut from this budget. Inspections. Although the board moved to direct staff to create and fill a new building inspector position at the presentation of the budget, our town still operates with an entire staff of 4 inspectors. With the sheer massive amount of commercial and residential construction currently underway and proposed, we have inspectors conducting upwards of 20 to 30 inspections daily, while most municipalities have enough inspectors to conduct them by trade. This means that they have so many inspectors at other municipalities that they can have an entire crew just for electrical, an entire crew just for mechanical, and so forth. With the 2 level 3 inspectors that we have near retirement, this is another growing concern as it relates to growing this department to an operational level. Parks and Recreation has indicated that while the Splash Pad Heritage Park and All-Inclusive Playground has funding, the following projects have been cut from year to year due to budget shortfalls and represent deferred maintenance items that we have furloughed from year to year. Tennis court resurfacing, Heron Park Playground, maintenance building improvements, Dove Building, vinyl siding, and the playground replacement at the town lake. So I wanted to make sure we're painting the right picture here, and now Finance Director Drew Holland will explain to you the strategy of us moving forward so that when we hit the reval year, we aren't looking at having to deal with these issues that we haven't been able to address on top of a $1.9 million budget shortfall. Someone spoke about planning for the upcoming shortfall. I would surmise that that time to plan is now. I'll turn it over to Mr. Holland.
Okay, so Chancellor gave you an overview of the budget needs that the town has. You heard that at the budget retreat back in March. We tried to accommodate as many of those items as we could in the budget, and as you see, you can see what made it and what did not. We talked at the budget workshop about using fund balance to cover all these needs. Fund balance is our reserves. I do not recommend using fund balance or reserves for operating expenditures. We usually use it for one-time capital type purchases. But this year, there was a lot of requests, and we wanted to honor as many of those as possible. So the original budget that you received showed us using about $500,000 of fund balance in order to cover as many of those requests as possible. During the time, we also discussed the possibility of using a tax increase to absorb some of that cost. And then you want a justification to go along with that if we were to suggest a tax increase. So you received justification for that. A lot of those one-time expenditures would be used for 3 cents of the taxes. And as far as what would that be on an ongoing basis, since it is a one-time cost, it would be used the same way in next year's budgets as well, using some of those large capital items that Chancellor just mentioned. It also shows in there at least 2 police officers and all the equipment and vehicles that comes along with them. They would be hired in November, which also saves us a few months of salary, and then we could pick them up at that time and fund them the rest of the year, and then the ongoing taxes for that would fund those officers in each additional year. The other thing we talked about was sales tax. We know that in fiscal year 25-26, we're going to have a reduction in sales tax of at least $1.8+ million. So we need to come up with where's that funding coming from. The council said we need to be prepared for that when that happens. So as me and the manager mentioned, we have a strategy. And the strategy is not to use fund balance for the one-time capital items in this budget. Leave that amount in reserves at this time. We also said we're going to cap our current sales tax, the increase that we get each year. So if we leave that $400,000 in reserve and we cap the sales tax and do not budget for at least $300,000 of the sales tax, we're putting back $700,000 in this budget that's been presented to you. We do that very same thing in next year's budget. We don't use fund balance. We use this same tax that we're adding this year in next year's budget. We don't have to use fund balance to fund those one-time capital needs. And we cap that sales tax for another $300,000. So of that 1.8, now in 2 years, we've made up for 1.4 of that 1.8. And we're hoping, we can only estimate because we don't know what the reval is going to hold in year 3, that will at least come up with the other $400,000 to make up that whole 1.8 that we need to come up with. That's the strategy, that's the plan. That's what we came up with, that's what we're presenting to you. But you as the council, you still have an option. We can still use fund balance, as was originally presented, or we can do the tax increase. If we use the fund balance, then the strategy that I just laid out for 3 years from now, we're not going to have that money. It'll have to come from somewhere else. We'll have to readjust and do that. If we just do half of it, well, that cuts that 700,000 in half. So we don't come up with the 1.8 that we need in 3 years. So, you know, that's our strategy. That's what we presented to you. You do have options. You could do it one way or the other. So that's all. Is there anything else? Did I miss anything?
No, I just think what Mr. Holland is surmising is that we wanted to come up with some plan of action. Because if we don't do what he just said, that it gives us the ability to shave that 1.8, 1.9 down to about 400,000. We're looking at trying to still meet all of these needs on top of a $1.9 million budget shortfall during the reval year. And I don't think that the revaluation will cover all of that amount. So this is a strategy. Ultimately, the final decision rests with the board.
Yeah, we don't know what the reval is going to be in 3 years from now. If the economy changes and say there's a recession and values go down, we're in another kind of bind. We don't know. Right now, things are good. It looks like at reval, the prices should go up, but there's no guarantee of that. So it's very hard to project what that's going to be when that gets here. But like I said, this is a strategy. It's a plan. It provides for the future so that we don't have a situation 3 years from now. Now, do know this, that 3 years from now, we're only doing this for that first year. That 1.8 reduction is also ongoing. But what we're planning on is that the town's growth, we're hoping, will be able to make up some of that difference. So a tax increase will also be able to, in future years, sustain that as well. And we don't have to rely just on our current revenues. Any questions?
I want to start with Commissioner Legg. Would you like to have an opinion or force a comment or a question at this time?
Is there no place that, excuse me, is there no place that we can cut spending?
Did you hear everything that the manager just said that we cut out of the budget?
I will.
We have cut.
I will add
Extremely a
that
lot.
in addition to what I just surmised, we did a 5% decrement across the board from every department, and I cut planning by almost 50%. And so we did. This is a multi-pronged approach. You have in this on this agenda a fee schedule increase. So we increased fees. We cut wherever we could cut. We did the decrements, and we're asking for a tax increase. So this is not one strategy, but one thing I want to make sure we caution is that we have to find a way to cut in some way, shape, or form. And I fear that if we don't do something with taxes, we're going to be looking at a possible reduction in services. This money has to be balanced in some way, shape, or form. And I do completely understand the plight of the citizens of the town, which is why we're trying to come up with a multi-pronged strategy to do it in the best way possible.
Well, I kind of have to agree with Miss Edwards and, was it Mr. Morgan, was it? Some people can't afford a tax increase, period. And my wife and I are two of those people. But I don't want to use me as a reason. I want to use these people that are on fixed incomes. And at this time, I don't agree with the tax increase. Sorry.
Okay.
Commissioner Mitchell?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Ever since last year, I believe, I asked the question, what do we need to do to educate our citizens if there ever is a tax increase? We need to educate them, show them, explain to them why a tax increase will be required and needed. Is there going to be a reduction in service? If it's not, it's Mr. McLaughlin just explained. Yes, because we told them if we don't have the funds, we got to cut. There's operational funds, there's projected funds, and if I'm not mistaken, Hope Mills have not had a tax increase in what, about 10 years? And we have been doing good, really have. But everything else has been going up, and we have so saying, so everything's going up except the paycheck. You know, and that's the real skin of things. But unfortunately, we live in a time, fuel escalation. When fuel goes up, so does everything else. When there's a shortage. And I can tell y'all, I just went to a meeting a couple of weeks ago. The demand is out there. As the demand goes up, so does the price. You know, and that's the nature of the beast. And I really think that this is not our budget. We just make, this budget belongs to the citizens. And the citizens, and that money is utilized to take care of the citizens. You, the citizens, have to decide as well. You know, do y'all want to be taken care of properly in the right way and provide you with good quality services? Or do we want to begin to pinch pennies and we struggle to meet the needs of the citizens? Infrastructure is going to deteriorate. We have to have a maintenance plan. Vehicle fleet. Our vehicle fleet, what's the average age of one of our vehicles? The oldest. It's worth about 25 years, maybe 30. We'll spend more money on maintenance than it is the value of the vehicle. So those things have to have some serious look. And you as the citizens have to have some serious look at these things. We are looking at all these things, and it's not an easy decision to make. And it's really not. And trust me, senior citizens are near and dear to my heart. Individuals on fixed income are near and dear to my heart. And if we can find a way to take care of the sources that the services that is required in this town without increasing taxes, trust me, it will happen. We will do it. But we need to make sure that y'all understand we don't take this lightly. We put a lot of research. I'm calling Mr. McLaughlin up all the time. Hey, look, what's the deal? What can we cut? Can we cut this? Can we cut that? Because before we take and put this liability and responsibility back on the citizens, we're going to put that responsibility on us first to make sure that we're being good stewards of your money. Look at some of the meetings we've had. Case in point, we say, hey, that's too expensive. Go back, find a cheaper way. Go, check it out. We do that all the time. We do not take it lightly up here. We are trying to be good stewards of the taxpayers' money. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
As mayor, I do not have a vote. However, as the mayor of Hope Mills, I have found that according to my Facebook page the past week, that I will be blamed for whatever takes place. I do support our board's decisions, but as far as my thoughts on this, I wasn't really going to spend a lot of time on that. I did send an email to our commissioners today and to our town manager and to our finance officer as far as I believe as a citizen. And I do believe it's important that I share that because as a citizen of Hope Mills, I do pay taxes. And I think it's important. So I'm just going to read to you what I sent to them and just let you know this is, as a citizen, this is what I'm concerned with. On Friday, I sat with Mayor Mitch Coleman at an event. He shared with me that Fayetteville will need to increase their tax rate by 4.5% just to cover their recreation bond. And I'm asking the town, please let me know if you have any information that would be helpful for our board. The concerns from our community about tax increases this year would probably mean less support for a bond. In my opinion, if we keep property tax increases on hold until we can put the Parks and Recreation bond on a referendum, we will have more support for both and the need for a tax increase. Also, our current prepared budget, which we saw at the past meeting, is balanced. Within our budget are fee increases, trash refuse pickup increases, along with a $10 fee for motor vehicle privilege tax, which is the highest in the county. All the other municipalities pay $5. Stormwater fees for us are $48 and for residential, and $72 is the commercial rate. Also, finally, what property tax increase are we receiving with our commercial growth? I would like to add that the last property reevaluation, residential values were lowered, and our increased commercial development at that time meant a balanced budget. The forecast for Hope Mills reevaluation is positive. More homes, higher values, and most importantly, as you can see happening all over our town and out at Exit 41, commercial development is continuing at a rapid pace. And I personally would ask, how much increase have we seen due to commercial property taxes, especially what's forthcoming with what's happened this past year. As mayor, I support our board's decisions and I'll listen to the discussions. I do not have a vote, but as a citizen who pays residential and commercial taxes, I pay 2 times commercial taxes. We do not need a tax increase. Small businesses right now are struggling to get merchandise. I can tell you that the small business owners that have contacted me are concerned because during COVID, their suppliers were lost because they weren't producing things for them, and now what's happened is all the costs have increased. They also are prepared to let us know that shipping costs are continually rising due to fuel costs, which means those mom and pops that are getting their supplies from different places are having to pay more to get it here, and in many cases are actually going to the actual place and picking them up. We also pay commercial refuge tax, refuge pickup to companies that is separate from what we pay because we don't pay, there's not a commercial refuge pickup for the commercial business in town. We have to actually pay those fees to an outside source, another company. It's not included like the residential fees. As a retiree, I can also sympathize with our residents who are on fixed incomes. Many that never receive a COLA or each year because that's not what happens, especially with Social Security. Some did get one most recently, but it's something that doesn't happen every year. Thank you for reading. I wanted to share this before our meeting as I want our board to be in harmony. Important especially this year because we can show our citizens that keeping a board together for 4 years is good for continuity and productivity, which we have seen these past 2 years. We have received funding from the state, ARPA funding, additional funding to help us with capital improvements. We have some grants out there that are going to pay for some of these other improvements. We've got money right now that was a source to do some street repairs. I just believe that our fund balance each year that I've been mayor, with exception of one, we have put money back in our fund balance that we had appropriated for our budget because at the end of the year, we realized we had been cost effective and what we had created was money that we projected, but we didn't need it. And even this year, I believe there's over $200,000 that will go back in our fund balance from our previous budget year. So as mayor, yes, I agree with the fact that we are in a bind this year in that we do need lots of things. But I believe if we're going to raise taxes, if we want to do a recreation bond, then what we need to do is forecast that down the road, and hopefully, yes, the economy will improve, and hopefully some of these prices on things, which right now PwC is going up, Duke Energy is going up, the cost for oil and gas for your home heating is going up for the winter, and those are costs that each of us are faced with, and I just, as a citizen, as mayor, whatever our board decides, then I support that decision, because as your mayor, I am the spokesperson for the board. Mayor Pro Tem.
I have a lot to say, but I've tried to write some notes and make sure that I cover everything that I want to say. I would like to say that first, I don't take a budget increase lightly. I do understand that it could cost me the next election, but I feel like in my conscience for planning for the town that it is the right thing to do. You heard our town manager and our finance director talk about all of the ways that we have cut services for our citizens. In that plan, you also do not hear a plan for us to hire staff as we continue to expand in Hope Mills and need more staff to work. We don't have a plan for that growth. And I feel like it does take a lot of courage to do what we're going to do. In 10 years, inflation has also went up. I don't feel like it is, I don't feel like we are planning properly for the town. I do know that it is uncomfortable. When we're talking about this commercial property and the expansion of I-295, we will also need people to inspect those buildings and the businesses that are going to come along with that. The shortfall that we are going to experience in 2 years from the agreement that we just did with the county commissioners, they had been in conversation with that for 20 years, and we did not plan. We pushed it off. In 2 years, we will also have to start paying back the loan for that public safety building next door. We will have to pay for a parks and recreation building that we have severely outgrown, along with a number of other things. And the time, we have to plan for that right now. Right now, we are pinching pennies. We are robbing Peter to pay Paul. That's how this budget is getting balanced every year. And again, so I had a lot to say. I tried to make it short. We don't take it lightly. I don't think it will ever be the best time or the right time to increase taxes, which is why it has not been done in several years, and we are still struggling to provide the services that our citizens need for this town. Thank you.
Commissioner Scroller?
Yeah, I agree with Dr. McCray. You know, we don't take this lightly. And I've seen the comments on Facebook and thinking we don't take it seriously or what do we care, and then when we get thrown in our faces, it's an election year, watch who doesn't get reelected. I'm poor too, and people don't seem to understand that. I'm on a fixed income. It's not just the senior citizens. But go ahead, think that I'm doing this for fun, because Lord knows this is not a fun job, okay? And, it's like, what is the options? Do we do what's right by the town and as we're expanding, hire the people we do need? Or we say, okay, interim manager, we need to cut trash to once a month. We need to cut recyclables to once a month. We can't have the police department patrol as much as often because we can't hire the police department as we expand and annex in other land. What are our options? And then I'm going to get threatened with, well, you won't get reelected. What do you want me to do? You please run and take this job because it doesn't pay me enough to worry about paying tax dollars. So tell me, what am I supposed to do? And I put it on Facebook. I was like, no one has called me. I was about to curse. No one has called me. No one has sent me an email. This has been coming up since March when we had the budget meeting, and no one said anything. But sure enough, the day of the meeting, we're mad, we're angry. Where is everyone when we were asking about this months ago? We knew it was coming. It was never a surprise. I've always said I was poor. I'm still poor. I don't know what to tell you people. Not you people, us people, everyone. I don't know what to tell everyone. I don't. There's no easy way for this. Everyone's going to be uncomfortable. It's frustrating. It is really frustrating because, we all take this very personal. It affects everyone. I don't know what to say anymore, Madam Mayor. That's it. Remarks complete.
Commissioner Marley?
Yes, ma'am. I too, as Dr. McCray, prepared some notes, and if the board doesn't mind, I'd like to read them because I wanted to make sure I kind of touched on everything that I felt like I wanted to say. I'm sure I'm gonna miss something here, but I appreciated the mayor's email today that she sent out. Had a lot of good points, and actually some of the things that she spoke on I actually have in mind, but I'll go ahead and get started. So this is in response to the recommended 4-cent tax increase and the proposed uses of these funds. I had the following statement and questions. At the last Board of Commissioners meeting, when the 23-24 budget was proposed, there was no justification given to the 4-cent tax increase other than to put these funds in the general fund or bankroll these funds in response to the sales tax distribution agreement within the county ending in 25. At this time, it would mean a $1.8 million decrease in revenue for the town. Since that meeting, the town has provided a list of possible uses for the 4-cent increase. And these next statements here go along with the email that the town manager sent out outlining the possible uses. So, new police vehicles, $191,324. I would like to know the number of police vehicles that we are still leasing, how many are on order, and how many we are waiting to receive. Veterans Park upgrades, $50,000. The town received $50,000 that was allotted by the state through the Cumberland County Veterans Association. So are we saying we need $100,000 in upgrades? The police equipment, the body cameras, $82,300. We were previously told by state representatives that told these items could be grant funded. And my question is, have we considered that? Have we looked for grants? Have we went that route with that? ADA transition projects, $40,000. Concerning ADA transition projects, it was my understanding we had a plan for this, and projects were budgeted for each year. With this $40,000, complete all ADA transition projects. Code enforcement vehicle, $32,300. My question is, can't this be paid out of proceeds from permitting fees? Monies collected through inspections have to go back to the inspections department. If not, what can those monies be used for? Are we collecting fees as we should? If not, we need to look into a collection agency to recover lost fees that are not collected. And we also, if I remember correctly, we went ahead and green-lighted the manager to purchase a town vehicle for the inspections department out of this budget. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, that's code enforcement, and code enforcement is under planning, not inspection. So the what you're talking about is the House bill that does state that all revenues derived in inspections must stay within inspections, but code enforcement is not under the inspections department.
Okay.
So we did purchase the new vehicle, but that came out of the planning budget.
All right, thank you.
Yes.
Two police officers' salary benefits, vehicles mentioned again, and equipment. Hire date after November 1st, 23, $133,450. How many what I'd like to know is if we have any police positions now that are open at this time, and where does the lapse salary monies go that is budgeted when positions aren't filled? Does this money go back to the general fund, or are we saving that money? How does a tax increase affect our senior citizens? This is questions I have. How does a tax increase affect our senior citizens, our veterans, those living in homes valued below $150,000 and lower? So we mentioned houses $219,000, $175,000, and $300,000, but what about the people in lower income situations that aren't in those houses? PWC, I got notice that I pay PWC for my water, as I'm sure a lot of people do, and Duke Energy for my electricity, which I'm sure a lot of people in town do. I received notice from both of those companies that my rates were increasing this year, as I'm sure the rest of the citizens in Hope Mills are. Our trash collection fees have gone up again. That's not any fault of the manager of the town. We contract those services out, and we have to pay what that company charges us, but that's another increase to the citizens that they're going to have to incur this year. Each year, the town has received increased revenue from sales taxes over the projected revenues. These monies can help offset lost revenue. I think the finance director touched on that a little bit. What is the projected property tax increase from new development within the last year, as we should be collecting on those property taxes soon? So everything that's been built within the last year or so, we should be catching up with that, and that money should be coming in shortly to help offset some of this. Also, the future development projections for property taxes, both for new residential and new commercial. I feel like we got a little bit of time left that, with all the development coming in, to see what kind of tax revenue, if we could, wait another year and try to get some of that caught up so we can get some accurate projections on that. Cumberland County is not raising taxes this year and cited the last two statements I just made as part of their reason for not raising taxes. The town finance department has received numerous awards over the years concerning the town's finances, and also awarding finance staff for the job that they're doing to keep the town in good standings financial wise. As far as I know, the town has never had a problem with securing funds if needed. We have a fund balance as of June 30th, 2022 of $8,338,175. I realize the town must have a certain percentage maintained. However, the town should not be operating as a for-profit. For years, the town has used general fund money to balance budget when needed, and the town is still in good financial shape. I have some other questions on here I won't really get into about some funding that has been given for some projects. Also keep in mind, as the mayor mentioned, the town has entertained the idea of a Parks and Recreation bond in the future for future development at the golf course and Parks and Rec needs that the manager outlined. We must keep in mind, though, with a bond comes another tax increase to our citizens. So just like the finance director said, you know, after 2 years, we're still going to be operating at a deficit. So a 4-cent tax increase this year is $533,752 roughly. And the proposed recommendation on the 4-cent tax increase, what we can do with those monies, come out to be $533,750. So if we're increasing taxes and we're trying to save money for the future, and we're using all of that 4-cent tax increase, at the end of that time, we're still going to be at a deficit. In my mind, we're still going to be at a deficit. We're never going to catch up, and raising taxes isn't going to do it. I just don't feel like right now is the right time that we need to entertain raising the taxes on the taxpayer, the homeowner, the citizen. Just like was said before, the cost of everything has gone up. Food, you know, your power, gas for your car to get back and forth to work. Everything's going up except for your paycheck, pretty much. So I just can't, with a good conscience, put a tax burden on the citizens of this town when the town can take general fund money and balance this budget. I'm not saying that there won't never be a time that, you know, we may have to, but I just don't feel like the town is in financial straits right now and in a situation where we need a tax increase right now. I can't support it right now. I appreciate the work that the manager, the finance director, and town staff did with cutting budgets, cutting positions, and making the sacrifices to get the budget to where it is today. I appreciate all that hard work. I appreciate my fellow board members' comments. I respect each and every one of them. But that's what we're here to do, to discuss. I've said my piece. And the only other comment that I will make is I will ask my fellow board members to please consider this year using general fund to balance this budget and give us another year to see what kind of tax increase, sales tax increase we're going to have. Just like the mayor said, you know, every year we seem to be able to save money and be able to put money up after the budget is said and done at the end of the budget year. So that's my thoughts, Mayor. Thank you.
I'd like to respond briefly, and I'll let the finance director respond as well. But as it relates to fund balance, it is my understanding that we typically do not go over about $500,000 in fund balance at any given year to balance the budget. This is the first budget we've had where we're looking at a $1.9 million shortfall, so we've never had this issue before. I'll say that as it relates to grant funding with police departments, we're exploring grant funding in a very unique way because, as I've suggested for about 4 or 5 years, we needed a grants division. People don't realize the FAMPO grants, I'm writing those, Don's writing those. So when we talk about creative grant funding, being pursued. It's the staff that already are working 4 to 5 different positions doing that service as well. I will say that one of the main reasons why the county did not entertain in any way extending this agreement to 5 years was because for the past 20 years, we've never entertained a plan of action to deal with this agreement. I will also say that we reduced our COLA in this budget in half. And I will also say that in addition to the 4.25 cent increase that City of Fayetteville is talking about doing with the bond, the city manager is also requesting a 2.75 increase on top of that for 7-cent increases in taxes. I'm not sure what the City of Fayetteville is going to do because they're in the middle of their budget sessions, but the city manager for City of Fayetteville has requested that as well. And so all I'm saying is at the end of the day, the choice is up to the board, but this is our proactive approach at trying to do something to look at what's coming. If we don't do that now, next year we're just dealing with the same problem, missing an opportunity to have some revenues to put in that, because the general fund that we're talking about, that we typically balance the budget with, we're talking about utilizing that to attack the 1.9. And I'll leave the rest up to our finance director.
What is the recommended amount that we have in general fund, in our fund balance?
The recommended amount?
There's a recommended amount through the league that we are supposed to maintain.
Oh, it's
for
not a
good
recommended.
voting.
We're required to keep 8%.
Okay, well, that's what I'm saying. There's a,
8% of our budget
Okay.
is dedicated for, we have to just set aside as
Okay, so
not.
how much-
It is part of
how
that
much-
8.3. If you take out the designated portions of our fund balance, it's about maybe 5.6 is what we have to actually use and
what is the required amount that we have to?
8% of what your budget is.
Okay, so how much would that
Would that
be?
be just
So if
roughly?
our budget's 16 million, then 8% of that, I have to use the calculator. $1.28
So 1.28
dedicated that we
million.
have to, that we cannot touch.
Okay, so, well, we have the additional money there. And we also, the question I asked was that we put back money every year that I've been mayor from either because we were very cautious about what we budgeted, so we
Right.
didn't spend what we had to take out of fund balance. So like this year, we're putting back, I don't know.
Right now, the estimate's around 273,000.
Okay, so that right there
Right.
is, that right there is a part of what we're gonna have a shortfall in 2 years. And that's what I'm saying, is each year, we have seen growth. And even though that sales tax money, our ad valorem taxes are gonna go up. And my concern is, if we only have to keep that 1.8 million, whatever it is, then that additional money can take care of us and not hurt our citizens with a raise in taxes. Yes, sir?
Madam Mayor, let's keep this real. All numbers are true. All, no matter negative or positive. There's something that this town have to take in consideration. Most of our staff is underpaid. I'm gonna tell you that right now. They're underpaid. You go anywhere around these municipalities and check and see, they're underpaid. We have been understaffed in some positions for a while. I'm dead. Before I was elected, I used to hear them say we short of personnel. When I got elected, we short of personnel. I think our police department has finally got up the strength over these years. Next is the equipment fleet. And I agree with Commissioner Marley and all the other elected officials up here. I don't want to see tax increase. So my question is, what do we do? I mean, and we need to hear from the citizens. We need your input, because we have to find a positive way forward to take care of y'all, to make sure that you get the services, make sure that we keep good employees on staff. That is important, because every time an employee quits, you got to go out and recruit, advertise, and retrain. That is unexpected costs. It really is. If somebody's fired, guess what that is? Unexpected costs. And those are things that I didn't budget. Matter of fact, we got to approve a budget amendment tonight to pay for fuel and maintenance that, guess what? Unprojected costs. And those things are happening because we have for years been kicking the can down the road. So my question to you all is, what do we do? Sure, I think if there's a possibility we need to delay this for a year, I'm all for delaying it for a year. Let's put together a comprehensive case study, lay it out so that when we say budget next March, citizens, this is what it is. These numbers are true. We are short 15 personnel. This is what it takes to get those personnel on staff. We are short X amount of vehicles. This is what is required. So we can educate you and show you why we need to have that budget increase. We thought we was doing it back in March, when we had our meeting. But like Mike Lachlan said, they had to go back in and shave and trim to get within the budget that we need to be functional. So again, the question to the citizens is, what do we do? Because we got to take care of you all in order to take care of this town. Without you all, we don't have a town. And if we don't make sound decisions, we will have problems. And we will make the best decision that's for you all. Trust me when I tell you that. This board here, we work together, collectively. We talk. We don't take our decisions lightly. We make decisions that's in the best interest of the town and the employees. We take this job very seriously.
Madam Mayor? Yes, ma'am. I also like to state on our budget amendment, on the consent agenda tonight, we pulled a couple of items. It's almost $100,000 worth of budget amendments there. That means our budgets are not really balanced. I'm not saying that as being accusatory towards you. There's just unexpected costs that happen every year that you have to be prepared for. That is on this agenda item alone, $100,000 almost of money that's coming off of the general, out of the general fund.
Okay, if we have to start cutting services to try to keep our heads above water, what would be the first things we would cut?
I don't know if we've actually spoken specifically about that, because we do have a way to do this budget.
Okay.
But it's using fund balance
Yeah.
that we know we're going to need in the future.
Yeah.
So it's not really this year that has to cut services. Might not even be next year. But that year 3, when we know we're going to miss $1.8 million, that's the year that we're preparing for. And so this strategy gets us there without having to cut any services. But if we get there without this, then that's going to be a hard discussion that we're going to have to make.
We're going to need to put that in a little frame and put it on the wall so people can read that when they come into town hall, and especially when people ask us for money. Also, boy, I'm just,
I can answer some of the questions that the mayor and Commissioner Marley brought up. Do you want to do it? If you want, the Veterans Park that you mentioned at 50,000, we did receive 50,000 for that. We're trying to match that with what we want to do for Veterans Park. That's what was requested. So that 50 is to match the money that we received for that. The police equipment that we're doing, a lot of times you get grants, it covers year 1. After the grant's spent and you have the equipment, now you have to cover the cost every year after that. So that's what we're doing there. The ADA transitions, we'd like to budget, if we had ample funds, we would budget over 50,000 each year for that. We have cut it down to 40,000, and we're doing the plan that we have each year. We add more ADA projects to what we've done previously. So that 40,000 is just what we plan on doing in next year's budget. We just mentioned the code enforcement vehicle. That's not inspections. We can't use inspection fees for that, since that's a separate department. The police officers, the salary and equipment, this budget with the tax increase would fund the 2 officer salaries. Those are ongoing. So when you're talking about the future for using these property taxes, portion of it is for one-time expenses. So that's this year, not next year. The salaries are ongoing, so that 1 cent is going to cover. Actually, next year, since we're hiring this year in November, next year will be a full year. So it'll be more than that 1 cent. But the things that are the one-time cost, they don't have to be funded by that next year, but there will be more one-time cost or more positions and things that we didn't put in this year's budget that we're going to have to do next year. So it's not just money that's going to go unspent. The property tax increases, just so you know, from last year to this year, because of the revow 6 years ago, when property taxes went down, any new construction that the town gets, for instance, I'll use one of the fast food restaurants we got. That building was a $12 million building. We're receiving taxes on $8 million of it because of the revow last time when the prices went down. So we're not even getting 100% of property tax value on anything that's built. With the revow, hopefully that will change, but we won't know that until it happens. And it also depends what's going on with the economy and the country at that time. So in light of that, our tax revenue growth from last year to this year is $156,000. Just over what the equivalent of 1 cent a tax. So all the growth that we've had, in the last year equals 156,000 of new revenues for the town. That's not enough.
Right.
I think every year I call the county assessor and say, this can't be right. We are building a lot of stuff here. And it's like, that's the value, that's what you've got. We have to go with their recommendation or their values. I'm not faulting them, they're doing their job, but it just seems to me with everything we've got going on here, it's got to be higher than 156,000. So that does answer some of y'all's. The trash fees, you know, our third-party vendor, they go up, we go up the same percentage that they do. The sales tax, what we did this year is we're not going to budget for that sales tax, so it intentionally will go into reserves to replenish that. So just like this year's budget, we should have, right now I'm estimating about 273,000 extra to go into reserves. Well, I'm hoping next year at the end of the year we have about 700,000 and the year after that, so we can prepare for year 3. And if we don't have those revenues, we're going to have to use reserves to cover that. So again, as Commissioner Scarola said, we will not, hopefully, have to cut services. That's the plan. That's our strategy.
Mayor, go back right quick to the 155 figure. Where'd you get that from? You said we had an increase to 155. What was that?
That's our property tax increase from last year to this year, what we can budget.
From last year to this year, we had a $155,000 increase. So essentially, that would cover the cost. That could cover the cost of the 2 police officers, and we can take the rest of that.
That's covering other costs that we have in the budget.
Not just that.
But what I'm saying is, you said we had an overage of 155,000, right?
It's not an overage.
We had an increase. That increase to me means that you brought that in. That was over.
No. It's budget. From the current year's budget to what I'm projecting for next year's budget,
Is an
property
increase-
tax that I can show as revenues is higher
an
next year
increase
by
of
156,000, but that's already budgeting for all these other increases. When y'all are talking about Duke Energy and PwC raising rates, that's not just for citizens. The town has that same increase as well. So, you know, we have to come up with that. Every year our insurance goes up. Every year our workers' comp goes up.
Madam,
Every time we add an employee, the salary and benefits are with that.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, sir.
There's one cost that we have not even thought about. That big elephant over there next door. We don't have the projection of what it's gonna cost for fully operational of that building, do
Right.
we?
We've prepared for that.
Right.
And we can pay that debt. But again, as you say, if that wasn't there, we could use those
No,
funds
and I'm
for
talking
something
about
else.
to operate it.
I think Commissioner Greeley is saying that we know that the loan is $1 million.
Right.
He's talking about the cost to operate the facility.
Yes, the operations of the facility.
Water,
Yep, everything's higher.
I'm talking about the cost for that elephant there alone.
Yep.
We don't even have a clue,
Well, we're experiencing that now.
right? I mean, because I remember the conversation.
And I will surmise that's a
That-
30-year
did
loan.
we have that, though, prepared for the increases in costs?
We projected part of that.
That's
Part
what
of
I'm
it,
saying.
right.
You don't know until you get there,
That's
so.
right. That's what I'm
yeah,
saying. You
This
don't know until you
budget
get there.
has the full year of those costs.
Like projectile forecast.
Current budget we're in only has about half the year for it.
And
Madam
how
Mayor.
much do you project? Because like I said, you do a great job. I'm compliment you on that.
And y'all know this.
Well.
I've kept us from raising taxes the
But
last several years.
Here's what I'm
I don't want to
saying,
raise
but
taxes.
here's what I'm saying though, is you are very good at projecting, but you project always less than we actually bring in. So that's how we've been very successful is you have that ability to do that. So with that being said, that's why I believe that we don't need a tax increase this year, because a lot of the things that we've got received money for, outside funding, and then the other thing is, we have $275,000 that was saved from what the projections were last year. So that's why I'm looking at this possibility is if we have to raise taxes, we wait until you're going to put money back already because you're not spending the whole sales tax revenue this year. You didn't project for the whole amount in this budget. So that means we're already catching up. If you do that very same thing next year,
Right.
then
I
we
do that
don't-
every year.
all right, then
It's
we
a
don't have.
conservative approach.
So that conservative approach means
Right.
that why raise taxes when you've already taken care of that? We're just increasing money that if we need to pay this $533,000, personally, I'd say fund balance, because we're having excess in fund balance, and that's where I believe if we were tight and didn't have the money there, then yeah.
Right.
But
There's two things with that. It's a conservative budget approach that we've done,
Yeah.
and it works.
Right.
And usually we are able to put some funds back. The 2 years that we weren't able to do that, it was 2 years, not just one, were some projects that were unfinished in prior years that we had to spend reserves in order to finish those. But that money went into, the first year I was here, I think we put almost $1 million into reserves, but it was unspent projects.
Right.
And then we
Then-
did them
now
over the
those-
next several
a lot
years.
of- most
So
of
that
our
was
projects
intentional.
we've
that we
acquired
meant to do
funding
that.
for most
But
of
it
our
wasn't for
projects.
operations.
Right.
That's the difference. It's not just capital items, it's not other things, it's for operations. You should
Madam
never
Mayor.
use your reserves.
Here's a question, okay.
Good.
But we've never had a projected $1.8 million shortfall facing us. That is something that we have never had. And
Unknown.
That's what we're preparing for.
And for 20 years, we are sitting here having this discussion now for over an hour because for 20 years, we knew that this was coming and we didn't plan for it.
Right.
That is why we are sitting here doing this right now, because we did not plan properly for the town of Hope Mills.
That's why we have this strategy.
Madam
This
Mayor.
is the plan.
Sir.
I have one question for you, for Drew, and then I'll be ready to make a motion. What would be the negative impact on us right now if we pushed it back for a year?
If we pushed it back a year, what would happen? And that's an option. We can do that. We can use fund balance with this budget just like we've done the prior years before. And it's balanced without a tax increase.
And the reason why I'm requesting that is, number one, we probably by then we have a true feeling for what it's gonna cost us.
Right.
We will have
Here's
a
what would happen. If we don't raise taxes, we use fund balance. Then we intentionally use the sales tax that we're not going to budget for this year, goes into reserves. So we're only saving $300,000 instead of $700,000. Okay? Then next year, if we do the tax increase, then we put back the full $700,000. So now we've only got $1 million sitting in reserves to cover the 1.8 that we have to come up with. And based on my projections, and this is just a estimate, because we don't know what the reval's going to be. I'm just saying it could be around 400,000. So now we've got 1.4 of the 1.8 that's needed. So now we need that tax increase that year to do the same thing.
Right.
Whereas here, you know, if we do it now, we're prepared. We don't have to do it in the future. And on top of that, we cover some of this list that the manager just mentioned to you of needs. So next year, without this tax increase, that list that he did, it's going to have to be cut again.
Right.
Just so we can maintain the level that we're at right now. Because we can't add anything new. Or nothing major. But Mayor, you brought up the money that we've gotten from the state and from ARPA. Those are for projects. We went through the CIP, we pulled things out that we didn't have money to do until we got those funds. It doesn't cover operations.
I know it doesn't cover operations. What I'm saying is those are quality of life things that
Right.
we've acquired. We've helped with stormwater, we've helped with recreation, we've helped with fixing the creek bed.
Right.
We've look at the things that we have acquired that now quality of life has improved for our citizens
Definitely.
without having to do anything And those projects have come off that capital improvement plan. That's what I'm trying to say is we've been very fortunate because we would still have that wish list.
We've done
And we
more
would not have
projects in the
quality.
last
You're-
3
We're
years.
looking at, we've got quality of life. And if you look at our salary scale, and I don't mean anything wrong with our salary scale, but I look at other salaries across the board. And I believe that, yes, there's certain areas we need to increase salaries, but there's certain areas that we're very competitive in. And if you compare those, go to some of these league comparisons and you'll see. Granted, where we need to improve is we're having to compete for, and you know those areas that we need to compete for employment. But I'll say no more. I just say that the main thing is, as we look at quality of life in Hope Mills, look at what we've got.
Oh, yeah.
And as we look at what we've got, look at what we're able to do with other sources of income. And if we want operational cost, right now, in my mind, we have a fund balance for rainy days, and we've got that rainy day, almost $2 million sitting in rainy day that you need to make everybody happy as far as that's what's required. We've got those additional dollars right now that for good banking, good safekeeping, whatever. Why not take advantage of that when we've had all these other benefits given to us? And that would take care of these operational costs, along with some that are, yeah, we'll have to figure out how to pay reoccurring, but like right now, you look at,
And with every one of those projects that we're completing, it raises our operational cost.
well, but as we prepare for that, that's what we're doing, and you're thinking in preparation. I just believe that right now, this is probably the worst possible time for our citizens. And you would probably find that, I don't know how many here, we've only had 2 speak out, but I can tell you that the ones that I've heard from, and maybe I hear from more because of the commercial taxes with small businesses, and I've heard people say, you didn't give us any money during the COVID time, you didn't give us any ARPA funds, and why didn't you help us out? Well, now with raising taxes, with the other things they have to pay, I guarantee you we're going to lose some of them because they can't afford to stay in business. And that's just the small business sector. But anyway, I'll say no more. I'll turn it,
You've got an option. We can use fund balance. We can raise taxes. Either one will definitely make this proposed budget work. It's the future that we were asked to come up with a strategy to prepare for the future. That's what we've done. We've got a plan that we think will work. So it's up to you as the council to, approve one or the other.
Madam Mayor, may I ask a question?
yes, sir.
Any funds that are left over from the current budget year, what happens to those funds?
They go into fund balance reserves, anything unspent. And right now,
have
the
an idea?
projection for the current year is we'll have an extra $273,000.
73,000. That's not much.
What bothers me sometimes, when it gets time to get to the end of the budget year, you see all kinds of buying going on.
Actually, we cut off spending as of today.
Well,
We
good.
try to limit that each year so that we have some money to go into reserves. Because you really don't want to go for broke with your budget. You don't want to spend everything that's there. I know the department heads like to think, hey, I've got this much in budget, I'm going to spend it all. I try to discourage that. You don't need to spend every dime. So that's why we have some to go into.
Madam Mayor, I have a question for the attorney. Is it 10 days after, is it not a general statute that we have to wait 10 days after the public hearing to approve the budget?
Yes, I would surmise that the presentation of the budget was the first hearing in May. So we've had about 30 days since that time.
Thank you.
Any other questions or concerns? Commissioner Lee, do you have any other comments?
Just got my answer.
Okay.
I'm going to be such a killjoy for the rest of this year because I don't want to hear it like we need more fun stuff because I'm going to be the person that says no to everything. So I don't want to hear like we need another splash pad or I want a pool or even the ball fields. I don't want to hear it because I seriously don't want to hear it. That's all I have.
I just had the same comment to the board that, you know, I'd appreciate if the board would consider this budget with no tax increase, use the general fund and address it next year.
Madam Mayor?
As Commissioner Mitchell said, when we get a clear picture of a lot more operating costs from the projects that we've completed.
If the time's appropriate, I'd like to echo Mr. Marley's statement and make a suggestion. We balance the budget without a tax increase.
Did either of you want to put that in form of a motion?
I just did.
You just did your motion?
I think I can support that.
He has a motion that we use the fund balance this year to balance this budget, which would mean $533.750 in fund balance. Do we have a second?
I'll second that, Mayor.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
Yes, I think I can live with that, especially considering the fact that we really need to get a true assessment of that building right there, number one. And with the increase of fuel and maintenance costs that we are just seeing now, like Dr. McCray just said, $100,000, we really need to come in here next at our next budget reading, which will be next year, prepare and have workshops, have everything that's required so that we can let the citizens know this is why it must be done, so that we can have a solid plan, solid budget put together. And if it requires a tax increase, I think it wouldn't. I might not be in office because that's an option that citizens make when they vote. I mean, that's their choice. But you elected us not to make these decisions, but to make the tough decisions. And this right here is not an easy decision to make. And with so many, there's still some variables that's unknown. And I know Drew and Ms. McLaughlin has done an excellent job putting something together for us. And trust me, this was not put together after we had our last meeting for the budget. We started working on this stuff back in, January, February, and then we go, hey, cut some of this stuff here, But then when we find out there's still some unknown variables. But I think with what we learned here tonight, if we go in and do a complete comprehensive study and put everything together with that new thing coming in, y'all will find out we were going to have a shortfall when we do the budget next year, a major shortfall. And that's my comment, Madam Mayor.
Okay. So any other discussion? At this time, the motion on the floor is to balance the current budget with the money that we would be removing from fund balance, and that amount, according to this budget, is $533,750. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed? It's 4-1. $533,750, and this is
I will make that change. Do we need to bring anything back at the next
That's what I was going to
meeting,
say.
or just-
Are you intending to adopt the budget with that amendment?
with that amendment, because that,
So I think you need
this,
to-
this,
Yeah.
this budget that is in here has the increase of the positions, and it shows a tax increase, but instead of a tax increase, they'll be using fund balance. So does that make sense, or do we need to, what we need to do?
Asking you.
I think you'll need to formally adopt the budget ordinance. I think you could probably, unless Drew, you need to make those changes substantively. Are there other
I
substantive
can
things
make
you'll
them
need to change?
subsequently.
Do we,
So just need
They can go ahead and approve the ordinance. I can make that change.
I think if you can approve the ordinance as amended by the board with that change, does that require you to go back and make other changes to the,
It's just one
okay?
okay, so,
property tax to fund balance.
so we need a motion to.
I think then
to
with that
adopt the-
said, you could adopt the proposed budget ordinance as amended with that amendment.
I'll make a motion that we adopt the budget ordinance
With that
with the
amendment.
amendment, yeah.
So have a motion, to have a second.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. All opposed? 4-1.
Okay, I'll make that change.
And just in an abundance of caution, you could probably put the amended budget on the consent agenda next meeting, just to formally
Okay.
adopt it
Mayor.
as revised.
Sir.
Mayor, question, do we need to approve a separate motion to move to adopt the proposed 23-24 fiscal year fee schedule as well? That's on there.
Yes, on there.
with, do we need to
I
move
think
on
that.
that?
Fee schedule part of the budget
Oh,
ordinance.
yes.
It's part of the budget, correct?
So now, a second motion would have to be the fee schedule.
Okay. So do we have a motion?
I'll put that in the form of a motion that we move to adopt the proposed 23-24 fiscal year fee schedule.
Have a motion, have a second?
Second.
Have a motion, a second. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. That's a 5-0.
All right, thank you.
Mayor, I have a comment if you
Okay,
don't mind.
yes, sir.
I just like to let the citizens that are in attendance tonight understand that we had good discussion up here, and this board has continued for the last over a year now to work together. We haven't always, everybody's not always seen eye to eye on every issue, but we've always been able to talk with each other and come together in these times. So I appreciate and respect each one of my fellow board members. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, next thing we have is public comments, and we do have two that have signed up for public comments. The first person is Delmar Thomas. If you'll come to the microphone, and we need your address, and then you may speak. You have 3 minutes, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. I don't know whether I'm able to condense all of this into 3 minutes because, I wanted to comment on, as you got into your budget. But my name is Delmar Thomas. I'm a landowner between the Fairway Forest and the Steeplechase subdivisions. I've been a part of this community for 72 years. And I'm still a part of this community. When Hope Mill started growing, our property was between the two projects, and some things were done to our property. And thankfully to Mr. Prius and Ms. Brown, I've been trying to talk to the city for 32 years about this, and someone finally listened. I understand all of the things that's going on with your budget, your shortfalls, things that you would like to accomplish that you have to put to another side because of all of your financial situations. But my family for 32 years have been completely locked out from being able to access our property. And the reason that this has happened was because of actions that the city of Hope Mills took without permission, and they completely blocked us off of our property. We're trying to get this rectified, and hopefully with everything else that's going on, we can get this rectified, because I need to be able to get on my property in order to take care of my property. And in those 32 years, so much has grown, and to be able to accomplish this, it would cost me, I'm a senior citizen on a fixed income as well. It would cost me a tremendous amount of money, and I'm hoping that in all that you're trying to do, that at some point in time I'll be able to sit down and talk to someone and get this situation relieved.
Mr. McLaughlin, would he need to come and speak with our planner or with you?
Well, may I say this?
Yes, sir.
3 decades is a long time
That's-
to try to get something done.
Yes, sir.
I've written many, many times, and no one seems to be able to now to find the letters that I've written or the relief that I've requested.
No. I don't think the board has received this concern, but I can tell you that what we probably
Ma'am,
need to
this
do
is
is
from-
let some
thi-
research be done so that, can you?
That's correct. I'm going to give him my card. He can reach out to me first thing in the morning. We can sit down and look at sounds like he's saying that his property has been landlocked, which is eliminating your access to it.
Yes.
And so we can take a look at to see what has happened and what we can do to rectify the situation.
Well, I know I only have 3 minutes. I have one statement. I'm 72 years old. If this is going to take another 30 years, that would mean I'm 102. I would like to resolve this, while I'm still,
Mr. McLaughlin, can you come visit with Mr. McLaughlin tomorrow morning?
Yeah.
I can meet with him first thing in the morning.
Okay, first thing in the morning?
Yes.
Okay, if this is going to be beneficial,
Yes, sir, it will be beneficial,
Now,
and you
this-
don't have to wait 30 years.
this is before all of your time. There was a time in Hope Mills that people did what they wanted to do, whether it was correct, whether it was right. No, Mayor, it's really not funny, I mean, to have been in this situation.
I understand, sir.
I've had pit bulls sicked on me, I've had guns drawn on me, I've had police called on me trying to access our property that's been in my family for over 100 years.
So that would be near you. Is it near you somewhere? Okay. Okay, well, Dr. McCray knows right where you're talking about. She lives in Steeplechase.
I'll add, we actually are a little quicker than you think. The Donegal item on the consent agenda is a public works request to fix this actual issue.
Yeah, it's already been taken care of, sir.
No, that's to fix what has created the problem, but that's not alleviating the problem.
Hold up.
So it's not alleviating you being able to have access to the property.
I'm sorry.
That's what you said. You said it's not going to alleviate the issue.
Well, it will create the possibility of me now being able to, on one side of the property, to be able to access the property. But that leaves me in, I mean, the destruction that was done when this Donegal water storm system was created would leave me to have to create a whole new way, you know, I would have to pay to have the foundation laid again to be able to enter my property. It was there before this was done. And this was done without permission. And as I said, for 32 years, I've been trying to alleviate this.
Is this something that Ms. Brown needs to address, or is this just something tomorrow morning that could be looked at to?
I'll give him my card, come in, we'll sit down with Stormwater and Public Works and the Planning Department. We can address and look deeper into it to see what has been done with this, what has been done in the past, and see specifically how we need to directly address the issue.
And that tomorrow morning, when you meet with all those people, they can actually pull your land up and look at it,
Yes,
so they
that's
can
correct.
see where a better access might be too. So, Mr. McLaughlin, and then our stormwater lady.
If the
is back
problem
there.
is alleviated, the access will be fine.
Okay,
They're gonna work on it.
they'll work on it. Thank you, sir.
I'd like to give you my card, sir.
Just in case.
I appreciate that, but I've just had so much rhetorical okey-doke over the last 30 years. You've got to understand, I would not be here tonight if the situation had not been this for so long. I need everything going on in the city, your town, I need this alleviated. I did not get on my property.
Our town manager gonna take care of you.
He'll take care of you. We guarantee it. Okay. Next, we have Brenda Warren.
I met that lady before.
Hi, my name is Brenda Warren, and I came here on November of 2021 with the same situation with these homeless people that are living next to us. This is a senior citizen complex, and I gave you paperwork, all of y'all, about what's going on. We need some help to get them from out of there. Now, they said Mayor Colvin sent them down, you know, broke up the situation down there on Gillespie and over there at that bridge. And somehow, more and more are coming where we're living. And I'm just going to call out a couple of things because I only have 3 minutes. They're sleeping in their cars. They're breaking into our cars. We just had another break-in Saturday. Yep. They broke into the car, but they couldn't get it started and hot-wired because the battery was dead. We have homeless people that use our property to get over there to sell drugs. They're coming out of the woods intoxicated, urinated, and shaking their penis all over the place, and we have kids that is near us that's out there playing because school is out. Other tenants, they come on their patios and porches and steal their little pillars and things that they sit on. I'm just gonna skip around. The tenants out here, we're afraid. We're scared to death. You know, I don't know if you can pull the paperwork back up from November I forgot what day, I think it was the 15th of 2021. I would like our people from our community to stand up. One left because she had to go. So we're needing help out here. We're trying to, they're trying to get in the building. A lot of them do. People are trying to sleep. It's just a whole lot going on out there. They take a shortcut into our complex to get into the woods. Like I said, they drive around, they do their little drug things just about every day and night. I mean, we have to go to sleep. They have campfires out there in the woods. They stand in the woods and watch us. If we try to get pictures or something, you know, they steal shopping carts from Walmart. They just back and forth with a lot of stuff to sleep in the woods with, and clothes and bags, and they're littering. They have dogs out there. We're concerned about that. It's just new people all the time. They curse me out. You know, I have a car, so I walk to the store early in the morning sometime, and they'll say nasty words to me. And they have took our land, our person that do our yards, yeah, the landscaper, thank you. His worker sat the weed eater down to go use the restroom. He comes out the restroom, and they pick up they go into the pawn shop. They get to the gentleman that's doing the weed eating, get to the pawn shop. He has the weed eater up there to sell it, got mad because he got busted, and talked like he lost it. Now, suppose he was on his way back from the pawn shop, and one of us are out there, he could have took it out on us. We got people with crutches, oxygen, wheelchairs. Yeah, thank you, Sandy. More people would have came, but they're afraid they're going to lose their apartment, see, by saying something. I know y'all got a lot to do. You've been talking about the budget. Have I ran out of time?
No, I got a question for you, ma'am. Over here. I got a question.
She got a question for you.
I got a question for you, ma'am. You're fine, you're fine. You guys have like an actual management for that building that you guys live in? Okay.
There she is.
And
she's present too.
Okay, have you guys tried anything to remedy it? Like, have you approached the police department? What have they done? Yeah, sure.
Come to the microphone, please.
Hey. So yes, I tell them all the time, call the police anytime you see them. I've been told that from officers, me and my supervisor came up here. We've been told there's nothing that can be done about it. I know that's a lie. There is something that can be done about it, because if they can run them from Fayetteville, they can get them away from there. And I want to know, what is it going to take? Is it going to take one of my seniors getting killed and found in the woods? But I've called. Saturday, I talked to an officer that was on duty. He had rode through there, but he enlightened me that there was only 3 officers working the road that day, or that night. So they're short-staffed. Like, I mean, I don't know. Something's got to be done, because it's getting hot. Summer, all we smell is human feces. Okay. I mean, it's bad over there.
Does the property that they're actually on, does it belong to you?
It does not.
So it belongs, there's another property owner?
I guess it belongs to the VFW.
Madam Mayor? Ma'am, I think you don't want to have the dog. You used to walk in the woods, ma'am? That's you, okay. And last year, You and I was talking about getting the area cleaned up. That is private property. Trust me, I've talked to the police chief about it. We tried to get it clean. The owner, at the time, I don't know if it's still the same person, refused to do anything about it. I went in there myself personally and cleaned up the tents, cleaned up the drug paraphernalia, cleaned up all the trash that was there. They're back there again. And I talked to the church. The church was trying to get it surveyed to see where the property line ends and begin so that they can evict them off their property. So we got to find out who owns the property. Ms. McLaughlin, can you probably find out who owns the property, and maybe we can address it with the property owner if we know who it is?
There's a sign out there for sale, and I'm sure her name or his name is on there.
Okay.
It's been for sale now for a minute, and it's just dangerous.
I can definitely look into that. I want to also let the public know that we've recently, in about the last month and a half, 2 months, developed a program with the Continuum of Care program downtown the city of Cumberland County that deals with homelessness. And what we're trying to do is trying to figure out some kind of way of dealing with this stuff. So the Alms House is now a contact point for the Continuum of Care program for homelessness for the county. So what happens is we have pamphlets now that we've given the PD, that we're giving the local businesses. So now when you encounter, we can give you some as well. A lot of these situations cannot be rectified with 1 or 2 approaches, but many of the homeless situations can be rectified by directing them to where the resources are available. And so what our plan of action has been so far was to direct them to the Alms House so that on the busiest day of feeding for the Alms House, they can go there and get something to eat. There should be Continuum of Care staff there from the county that can tell them more about dormitories that are available in the county and things of that nature that provide the services. That does not fix everything, but I also will look into the property owner situation, things of that nature, because if it's a private property owner and it's in town limits, we can hit them through code enforcement as well. So there's a multi-pronged approach we can take. But we have done something in the last month and a half, 2 months to at least try to deal with the homelessness issue in a way that directs them to services.
And Mr. McLaughlin, as well as I can remember, and it's been, I know I went and visited one of the first floor ladies, and it's been probably a couple of years ago or 3 years ago. And I remember at that time that we found out that the property is actually in Cumberland County.
That's why I said if it's in town limits, because without GIS in front of me, that's what I need to research to see.
That's what we found, was that it was Cumberland County, and that was another reason that it was complicated. But
what do we do, Mayor Warren, when, we're pleading for help because some of these people are not amatory like we are. They're senior citizens trying to live out the rest of their life. And if somebody push them or hit them, they're gone.
Chief Dollinger, did you have a comment that?
Well, I just wanted to say, it is not in.
That's right.
It is county property, which makes it difficult. We have a lot of issues when it comes to county property being so close to town property because our residents are expecting us to take care of it, and really it's the county's jurisdiction. But I'll give you my card. We did homeless outreach just this past week where my officers and some of my staff went to meet with some of the homeless in town to give them the information about what Mr. McLaughlin was just talking about with the Alms House, and to try to get them the resources that they need so they can find places to stay. So, but I'll give you my card. I wasn't here in 2021. So I'm not sure. They just told me what spot you're talking about, behind the post office, I guess, right? Is that it?
Sort of, kind of like there's a street, a street.
It's definitely the county property, but I'll give you my card, and maybe you can all come in and meet with me, and I can get some more information about it, and then I can reach out to the sheriff's department and some people at the county and see if they can help you out.
Because
Madam Mayor,
they're breaking in officers.
No, I understand, yeah, it's definitely an issue.
What's going to happen next? Assault, rape, murder? It's bad out there.
No, it's definitely an issue, but if you want to come and meet with me, I'll give you my card, and then I can at least get you to the right spot.
I'll show her we're working on it.
So maybe they can help you out.
Because thank y'all for your time, and I do hope your brother gets to feeling better. Didn't you say your brother was sick?
Yes.
I hope he gets to feeling better. Thank you, Mayor.
In less than 3 weeks. 2 cars. We go to bed at night, we don't know if we're gonna have a vehicle sitting out there or a college bus.
Yeah, you all come to my office, yeah.
You are at the.
At the police, yeah, at the police department.
Yes, ma'am?
And then I'll bring my staff in and we'll put our heads together and we'll see if we can get it right.
I work with the homeless and the ones that don't, excuse me, ones that want to live like this will refuse any outreach help that's there. They love to live with their drugs and their alcohol, so they don't want to be anywhere else.
That's right.
So they're not gonna go to Alms House. I watch them go by my apartment every day. One approached me today. I'm on my patio and he comes up to me wanting to know if I've got a bicycle pump so he can put air in a bicycle.
I would get with some of the soldiers down there, well, the veterans, I should say, and we will walk through the woods tomorrow. Check it out. All right.
Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, when I was back in the military, you know, I know most of them out there.
Next, we
Mayor, please turn your mic on.
Yes, ma'am, sorry. I turned it off because I was being picked up and I was projecting too much. All right, on our consent agenda, we have item A, B, D, E, and G that remain. Do I have a motion to approve those items on the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Seeing none opposed. We have no old business. New business, consideration of Resolution R 2023-17, setting a public hearing for annexation A 2023-05 on June the 20th, 2023. And that is the annexation of the piece of property on,
Mayor,
yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve Resolution R 2023-17, fixing a public hearing at 7 p.m. on Monday, June 20th, 2023.
Tuesday.
Tuesday, it says Monday on here.
Okay,
I'm
it's
sorry.
Tuesday.
Tuesday, June 20th, 2023, at Hope Mills Town Hall, 5770 Rockfish Road, room number 120, on the question of annexation number A 2023-05, requested by petition filed pursuant to GS 168-58.
Have a motion, have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Seeing none opposed. The next item is consideration of the nominations committee recommendations.
Mayor, can I just go ahead and make a motion that we approve the nominating committee's recommendation?
Okay, I have a motion, have a second? Have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Seeing none opposed. Next, we have the panhandling ordinance discussion. This was requested to be added to our new business as item C, and then we still have 3 other items to cover off the consent agenda. So at this time, I'll turn it over to Commissioner Legg.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's really funny that this other case came up tonight about the homeless people, but I don't have a problem with homeless people or those in need. I wish that we could do more to help them. But we have people who are violating our ordinance, with the panhandling going on. They're on the Walmart parking lot, they're on Food Line parking lot, they're standing at stop signs. And after talking to Chief Dellinger, I found out that if the owners of that property tell them it's okay, they can do it. But we need to discuss this tonight if we bring Chief up.
Well, there's not our experience. Walmart and private businesses are.
The middle button.
Get me technical here. Is that one? Is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
You know me with technology. That's not my forte here. So the Walmart and stuff is not giving them permission to solicit. And when we do go there, then we enforce it. The problem with standing at the stop signs and stuff, and I referred this to Mr. Hotzog, I think he's still looking into it, is there's some case law that came out that said that may be a First Amendment right of theirs to be in a public place as long as they're not violating any other laws. And I think we're still looking into that, sir.
Well, it depends what they're doing.
Right. If they're just asking for money, that's not a. Right, yeah, so, or even asking for money in a public land, like at a stop sign or on the side of the road, we're still waiting for the opinion of what that case law says we can and can't do. But as far as the private property, we can enforce that, and I know our officers do. We do get quite a calls about it.
Question, sign that says, I work for food, or handout, and you can tell true panhandling. There's a big difference between true panhandling and soliciting for a cause, right? All right.
This also says in the ordinance that they must be at least 50 feet from any automated teller machine without the consent of the owner or another person.
We haven't received any calls about soliciting near ATM machines that I'm aware of.
Right there on the Food Line parking lot, next to the Walmart parking lot, there's a machine there, and they're setting up tables there.
They're setting up tables there? Okay, I'm not aware of that, and we haven't received any calls about that. We do get them, our last one was an issue over at the Starbucks, and I know we took care of that. So when we do get the calls, our officers do respond and take the appropriate action. Like I said, we're limited where we can do that if it's on public property as opposed to private property. But private property, we did change the ordinance last year so that it wasn't on us to have to go in and say, hey, did you give these people permission? They had to provide some sort of proof that the business did, and that cut down on that increased our enforcement capabilities.
Well, can we ask the town attorney to work with you on beefing this up a little bit?
Yes, you can. There is some case law, though, as Chief mentioned, that says that panhandling is potentially protected by the First Amendment. So when you're in a public place, it's a little more difficult, a little more dicey with legal proposition to prohibit it outright, unless they're violating some other law. If they're just simply panhandling, that may be protected speech in the First Amendment.
Wow.
Yeah, if they're blocking traffic or, something like that, standing in the middle of the road where cars can't pass, well, that's different. But if they're just standing on the side of the road with a sign, we're very limited, according to the case law, what we can and can't do.
So that includes like the median, because I know I've called a couple of times where they're standing on the median by the neighborhood Walmart, and they'll be at all four of the intersections on the median, panhandling all four people. So they're
Yeah, I think if they're impeding traffic or doing something, in other words, you can't just go arrest them or tell them to leave because they're asking for money. You have to have some other legal grounds to ask them to leave or to place them under arrest.
And believe me, I think it's a big problem. I don't think it looks good. I think it's a quality of life issue. It's something that I know we need to address. But again, we can only address it according to what the law allows us to do. So.
It's not definitive, I think. I'm not aware.
It's the center
Big
one.
problem tonight with the buttons.
We need to find out what Fairville is doing.
Right. I don't think that there is a definitive case that says that. Oh, there are cases that say that, but there's not a North Carolina case, but there are cases within the Fourth Circuit that say that. So I would be wary of having an ordinance that, is potentially violating First Amendment. I think that the general practice would be, you err on the side of taking action if there's some other aggravating factor beyond simply asking for money, because people may have a First Amendment right. I think it's likely that a court would hold they have a First Amendment right to ask for money. If they are doing something like I said, impeding traffic, causing a disturbance, something like that, then I think you can take action. But the mere fact of asking for money might be protected speech, is probably likely to be.
We had a situation in the areas right there, oh, I'm sorry. I forget now. We had a situation up there where Taco Bell and those fast food restaurants, the people that were panhandling back there where the ATM is, they were going up there and going to the windows on the cars. So that we had people that were frightened because there was somebody there. And if there's back-to-back cars, then what happens is there's that fear, I can't get out of here because I can't move my vehicle. So that was one of the things that there was a concern about, is that they had moved to the actual coming up to the car and knocking on the window. So I guess, again, it would be probably those fast food restaurants that would say that they couldn't be there, or I don't know.
If they're on private property and
We can
the owner of
enforce
the
that.
property has asked them to leave and not solicit, then they have that right.
Okay,
It's different when they're on public property,
okay,
because there, our ability, in private property, you're enforcing the owner's,
And
ability
I'll-
to trespass someone and ask them to leave. On public property, you have to have, a violation, a crime, or probable cause for a crime to arrest them or to ask them to leave. If they are exercising their First Amendment right on public property, you're pretty limited in what you can do to stop them from doing that.
And I'll say this, when we do get calls, we respond immediately and take appropriate action. I think what happens sometimes is they don't call us, and then they complain to you folks, and by that time, it's a done deal, they're gone, and then we're being asked why we're not taking care of it. If they call us, we dispatch officers right away and do it, but sometimes we're not getting those calls, and then they're complaining, they're complaining
They
outside
met
of
me
that.
at the food line door when I was coming out.
Fisher Button.
It's pushed, I'm just not over here. Again, they met me at the door, exit a food line, and
And I know,
they're panhandling out there, and according to the ordinance that I printed out today, they're subject to a $500 fine. They're gonna panhandle that money too? I don't know.
I know Mr. McLaughlin referred a panhandling complaint to me a couple of weeks ago. We got right on it.
And to Chief Dollinger's credit, when I call him, they're out there within 15, 20 minutes. And so that's why we give the pamphlets to police. We've also given those pamphlets that we created to local businesses. But I think that the crux of the matter is when it happens on public property.
Right.
What can we and can't we legally do within the confines of the law? That's what we're going to explore, and we'll come up with an
Madam
update
Mayor,
for you guys.
I can tell y'all that there has been an influx, an increase of homeless people in the area. The numbers have spiked at the Alms House. they're very transit. I'm seeing new faces every day, some just rolling through. So you can tell the citizens they can anticipate it, but like Chief Dollinger just said, all you can do is pick up the telephone, call 911. If we authorize to do so, but like you just said, some of that property is public property, and if the owners don't do anything about it, it's nothing we can do.
The other thing we're starting in, actually we're doing it in two parts. We're working with an organization called Faith Action ID, and this Saturday we'll be helping give
ID, okay.
What's that?
Oh, good.
ID cards to some residents, right? And then we're gonna expand that. Actually, my staff asked if we could expand that to do the same thing where we go to these locations where the homeless are and give them some sort of an ID card, because a lot of times in order to get services or get into these houses, they need to have verifiable ID. So if we can issue them an ID card, then that will help them get the services they need as well, as opposed to not having any way to prove who they are.
That is awesome. That's a much needed service, because I've had several ask me how they can go about getting an ID card. And also, thanks to Chief Dollinger's department, we have partnered with you all, and we have provided Derek seen the meals that we gave to start giving to the homeless and stuff and the needy. That's running to people in need. So I want to commend you and your department for the things that you are doing, working with those in need and homeless people in the community.
Yes, sir.
If it's all right with this board, if it's a consensus or if I have to make a motion, I'd like to have the chief to work with the attorney to possibly toughen the rules up on this a little bit.
We will certainly make whatever effort we can. There is actually a Fourth Circuit case that says that begging and soliciting is protected First Amendment speech.
Wow.
So we're going to be very restrained in restricting that directly.
Yeah, because that ordinance is new, because we bolstered that up last year, and then since then, this case has come out, and now it kind of hampered us again.
We'll see what we can do, but it's going to have to be for other grounds on public property other than mere solicitation.
Is that all right with the rest of the board if they work together? Do we need a motion for that?
You don't need a
I
motion
don't think
for it.
we don't need a motion, just
Yeah,
consensus.
I'll reach out to Mr. Herzog
If we
tomorrow.
can
and-
come up with something, we'll certainly bring it to the board.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any other
Thank you,
questions?
Chief.
No? Okay.
That's it. All right, the item C was moved from consent to new business, and that mainly was so that, my understanding is that we wanted to make sure that we read those to verify. These are closed session minutes from March 7th. So
Which one?
you want to, this time, have you had an opportunity to read those, or do you want to wait and make this decision at our next board meeting whether or not to release them? Would that be appropriate?
Still it.
Right, that's why they ask it to be pulled, because,
The one that's in question, the one that said pool, isn't it, am I correct?
It was to be pulled if you felt like you needed to pull it, otherwise it was on consent.
right.
You pulled it, so I'm assuming there were questions. I'm sorry, I forgot to turn my mic on. So if you had questions, I was encouraging you to pull it so I could answer any questions you might have about it. I reviewed the closed session minutes from last year. We do this periodically. I gave the ones that I was not sure of. Some of them I know are not releasable because of what they're about. So the ones that I thought could possibly be, I give to Dan to review. And Dan reviewed those and said that that's ready to release to the public if the board wants to.
How many, we got 3 over there?
There's just one.
It's just one item.
It's just the closed session from March 7th, 2022.
Generally, the way it works is closed sessions remain closed and remain sealed until such time as the purpose of the session is no longer requires it to be sealed. So, for example, personnel information is always going to remain sealed because that's confidential by statute. Some other things like, real estate transaction, or we want to make an offer on this property, or we've gotten an offer to sell property, or something like that. Once that deal has either been rejected or has, come to fruition, there's no reason to keep that discussion confidential anymore. So the general idea is once you no longer need it to remain confidential, you can release it.
So y'all reviewed them, right, and said they're good to go?
Good to go?
That was the only one, and I believe, I can't recall exactly what specifically that meeting was about, but I recall that it was an issue that we had resolved.
Yeah, get one to Dan.
Okay. So so we have a motion to approve item C from the consent agenda.
That's, which one's Dan?
I'll make that motion.
Have a motion, we have a second? Have a motion, and a second. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Seeing none opposed. The next item that we moved was item F, and that's consideration of the Police Department Budget Amendment Number 35 in the amount of $58,000. The department has incurred additional expenditure on vehicle maintenance and fuel cost. So I'll turn it over to Mr.
Well, what would be your question on that?
Yeah, what's your question?
Question is what time period does that cover?
I don't know if it's just this budget year. We're looking at, if you notice in next year's budget, that y'all just approved several new police cars. So hopefully next year, we're not going to have this issue. We'll have newer police cars. We're going to get rid of the old ones, need all the maintenance.
I thought we approved a budget amendment already for maintenance before. And fuel, I
I
believe.
kind of waited close to the end of the year for 2 reasons. So I can cover all of it. And then the second reason, I know more where we have extra funds at the end of the year.
They're actually coming out of, they're they're actually coming out of accounts that the money would be available in.
Well, let me ask you this if I may. Would it be smart to work on this late in the budget year? Or do something else, you know, like another vehicle or something? Instead of repairing this?
These vehicles have already been repaired. This is not an invoice that's sitting out there waiting to be paid. This is what we have already, is that what you're asking? This has already been done during the year, throughout the course of the year.
Oh, so this covers the entire year?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I might have misunderstood the question, but yeah, this is expenditures that we've done on the police vehicles over the course of the year. It's not like one vehicle that's getting fixed or a few right now.
This is above and beyond what was forecasted,
Yes,
58,000
because we have a
plus.
very aged fleet.
Yes.
The chief can probably speak to that, and we've had to do a lot of maintenance, but as you see, next year's budget, we have several police cars. That 191,000 is going to be several police cars that we're going to replace all these old ones.
See, that's another
They will be leased vehicles.
See, and that's what we was talking about earlier when we was talking about the budget. See, if that's a $58,000 shortfall, was this factored in this budget going forward? If not, we're gonna have another shortfall next year this time. Would you agree?
Do we have a shortfall?
I mean,
We have funds to cover it, so
Right
that's
now.
what we're doing.
Yeah, there's funds to cover it now.
right.
Yeah.
But see, if it was not forecast in this year's coming year budget, we're gonna have the same problem again next year.
We shouldn't, because we're getting newer vehicles.
We shouldn't.
Shouldn't.
All right.
Madam Mayor, I have a question. Do we know how many vehicles this covers? Like the maintenance, like how many I think.
That I do not know. The chief may need to speak towards that.
I think it's 50 vehicles or 45 vehicles. It's right around that ballpark. We have taken steps, some things that I did to try to reduce this maintenance cost. And I did request a budget of 100,000 for this, which was cut because very early on, I realized that the state of the fleet wasn't taken care of over the years, and the aging vehicles are always going to cost more money. So what we did is, now we're leasing vehicles, and the newer vehicles will cut down on maintenance costs, obviously, because they're covered by warranty. So a lot of the costs will be covered by warranty. We contracted with Enterprise, which is our leasing company where we're leasing the vehicles from. And what we actually did recently was to contract with them, because they offer another service, is we pay a monthly rate. I believe it's $7 a vehicle. I think it's $7 a vehicle, and what they do is they manage our whole fleet for us, and they negotiate better prices at local garages. So we're getting that money back just in what we're saving in repairs. So if a vehicle does need repairs, we're saving money because they've already negotiated discounts in making those repairs. And like Mr. Holland said, we're going to be getting rid of a lot of the older vehicles. Again, to use your expression, Mr. Mitchell, the can was kicked down the street for years with the vehicles, and now we're just trying to get to a spot where it won't be. The other thing Enterprise does for us is they keep track of the equity in the vehicles, and they let us know when it's the best time to sell, so that we're making more money on getting rid of those vehicles instead of keeping them too long, and that money gets rolled right back into the program, so we can be as economical and financially responsible as possible.
One other question. Do we use a fleet card for gas, for fuel?
Every car, I think even throughout the town, has a fleet car. It's WEX. Yes, sir.
Now, I'm asking that question now. Do we have a comprehensive combined roll-up at the end of the fiscal year that shows you the total amount of fuel purchased are just the monetary amount? And the reason why I say that is we calculate the total amount of gallons that was used and then forecast at the high end. You know what I mean? Regardless of what gas costs, if we use premium, all of the bill across the board is premium. That way you already forecast well above the consumption
We do some
amount.
of that with the budget process. What we can't count on is when gas prices escalate.
That's what I'm talking, yeah.
I don't know if you see, prices will get down. I remember it got down to, I think, $2.95 in front of the Walmart, and then 2 days later, it was up to $3.49.
Right.
You know, so it's so hard to estimate. And like you say, when we have a budget that we're trying to cut as much as possible, we don't have room for contingencies. So when the chief asked for $100,000 in maintenance and $80,000 in fuel, we're thinking, does he really need that much for that? So we do cut it a little bit, and then we get to the end of the year, and it's like, you know what? We probably shouldn't have cut that because we ended up needing it, but we're hoping that we don't. And we did that again with next year's budget, hoping that we don't, based on some of the changes that we've made, but we do take that into consideration.
See, there's two fuel rates that would always be high. Premium and diesel. Those are your high two.
Right.
And if you forecast and calculate those at that rate, you pretty much be straight.
Yeah. But if you notice, last year, I think it was, there was like 4 departments we had to come back with fuel
Right.
budget amendments. This year, it's just 1. So I think we've done it better. It's hard to do, police. They have so many cars.
Yes.
They're driving all day long.
24 hours.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's sometimes difficult to project.
I have one more question. Do we have a policy on vehicle maintenance costs?
A policy on cost?
Yes.
Like if it gets above a certain amount, we
Yes.
replace the vehicle?
Yes.
We don't, because I will have to say, until recently, we've not had an aged fleet like we do now. So this is kind of new ground, but we've just got into the leasing vehicles. And one of the reasons why some of our fleet has gotten so old, because since the pandemic, it's been so hard to even get a car. So when we would have replaced some of these cars 2 or 3 years ago, we can't because they're not available. You can't get the vehicle that you want. And trying to find a truck, extended cab, that's white in color is very difficult. Right now, just recently, we've been able to start seeing that, okay, the vehicles are out there now, we can actually get them. We've bought 3 vehicles probably in the last couple of months.
I think the program that Dollinger just talked about with Enterprise is a approach in the right direction in terms of a program that deals with the maintenance of the cars in a pretty fiscally responsible manner.
And the other issue is too, is a lot of it takes so long to get a car. So not just from us, but if we order it, because what happened is Dodge canceled all of they don't do Chargers anymore. And Ford canceled like thousands of vehicles, so police cars. So now we have all these departments across the country competing to get the limited amount of cars that they do. So thankfully, we've taken some steps to order them ahead, but from the time we order them, take possession of them, and then they have to have the lights installed and stuff like that, it could take a whole year. So we're always a year behind. We're ordering ahead to try to catch up to that.
But
We're trying to stay ahead of.
Yeah, but we are,
We don't really have a
You're right,
policy.
Dr. McCray.
Need a
Because
policy.
the fleet is so aged, we're spending, this past year, we spent a lot more money fixing cars that, more than are worth. But once we get the fleet to a position where it's not as aged, that will rectify itself.
but we do have a rotation plan, because I know we did that to try to eliminate, because, years ago, they had those Crown Vics, those great big cars, and we rotated them. We started a plan for rotation. And I think the problem has been not that we didn't budget for cars, it was we couldn't get cars.
Right.
So we're behind in, yeah, that's what I'm saying. We've got money in there that we've rotated,
Right.
and we just haven't been able to get them, because I know that was one of the concerns, is we didn't have a plan for the fire department either, if you'll recall. And so they had to do a rotation basis, so yeah.
Right, for a while, you couldn't get a police car for.
Yeah.
Madam Mayor, so that's my other question. So I know we have this plan for the police department. Do we have this, because that was a big issue in the budget book about aging fleet. So is it across other departments too? Are we rectifying the issue, not just in
Other departments, as a vehicle needs to be replaced, we're replacing those. But like I said, the last couple of years, we haven't been able to get the vehicles that we needed to replace them. And now we're starting to be able to do that.
So we do have a plan then. We have some type of plan in place. In other words, a vehicle replenishment or replacement plan. We do have that in writing somewhere?
Yeah, it's not as formalized as police and fire, but we do have it.
Okay. Need to make
Okay,
sure we
any other
do.
questions, or we have a motion? Yeah. Any more questions? All right, do we have a motion to approve this budget amendment?
I'll
Madam
make
Mayor, I
that
make a
motion.
motion to
It's on.
approve budget amendment number 35 in the amount of $58,000.
Have a motion, have a second?
Second.
Have a motion, second. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Seeing none opposed. All right, the next item is item H, and that's, the item is consideration of accepting the quote from Seegers Fence Company for the installation of an ornamental security fence at the Thomas Campbell Oatman Chapel. And this item requires the passage of budget amendment fiscal year 22-23, number 36. And I'll turn it over to our Parks and Rec Director, Lamarco Marson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and board members, and I'll turn it back over to you all. What questions do you have?
Do we need it?
We do. We need it, and not to beat a dead horse about, you know, the obvious with the homeless, and it's a security fence. We need it along the frontage, and then we also need it in the back of the parking lot where the drop-off is. We hope and pray that people can drive safely, but we just worry about somebody driving up that ledge there, and so there's actually a part 2 to that where the fence aligns the backside of that slope that slopes down to the creek area. So, in short, yes, the fence is needed.
So, okay, so this is for like a decorative fence, correct?
Yeah, now, it's decorative only because up front it's going to be decorative. It's ornamental, and only because it fits in with the character of the church. The back fence would be more utility in that it'll be a chain link black fence. So that would not be ornamental.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the only reason why.
Because remember I said, I was like, I'm pulling those purse strings now, so I'm looking for the cheaper way. Is it possible we can just have the back fence and not worry about the front fence?
We could, but, you know, you kind of, that safety factor, people, you know, we don't know what type of hours people are going to have those rentals. You want to, you know, you want as much protection. And with the vandalism, let me just say with the vandalism that we incur every weekend, including this weekend, you know, we kind of want to add that added layer of protection with the security fence and, you know, the cameras. But in lieu of the cameras being in just yet, we can get the fence in as soon as possible. And I think the fencing will actually close out that project where we don't have to look at anything related to the chapel anymore. So it's just an added layer of security and protection for vehicles and people.
Is that gonna take care of the gate too that y'all wanna put up?
Yes, well, we have an armed gate that we're gonna put up. So the gate is separate, but my guys are gonna install that.
Okay.
Have we talked to the doctor's office yet?
We've reached out to the doctor. I didn't want to tie the cost of the fence in with Dr. Rayner's office because I didn't want to give the false sense that, you know, since you paid for the fence, you got first dibs on it. We did reach out to them recently to let them know that, you know, the chapel's going to be open once the fee schedule opens and that we want to be good neighbors, but we did want to talk about some type of lease. Now, we haven't worked out what that looks like, if there's any monetary, you know, value to it, or we just going to have a system where, you know, hey, we got a rental here, you know, your folks aren't going to be able to park here today because of a rental. But they've reached back out to us. We just haven't had a chance to sit down and talk about what a lease might look like.
Have you considered that area that, and I don't know who owns it, but where the asphalt on Dr. Rayner's just kind of drops off and is raggedy looking? I know when we did the fencing out here for the Adcox Cemetery, they did that sort of like what the brick wall looks like at the very back of our chapel, you know, right there where Dr. Rayner's business is. I was just wondering if Dr. Rayner would be interested in maybe completing his wall, which I know the wall was there when he bought it, so it's been there a long time.
Along the back end of
it
it?
would enhance that area at the end of his parking lot.
Right.
That faces the
I
chapel.
can definitely ask. His business manager reached out to us. We just haven't had a chance, playing phone tag, hadn't had a chance to sit down and talk about it. We can
Any other questions for?
Oh, my microphone's still on. So I'm looking at the actual, the options that the fence company gave, and there's two options.
Right.
Okay, so there's option one, and that one totals $7,241, and option two, that's $2,522.
So option one, which is $7,241, that's just the parking lot. It doesn't cover the area in front of the restroom.
Okay.
So both options, you know, the full $9,000 plus or minus dollars goes along the whole frontage of the property. I think that's important because you kind of want to deter people from hanging out in the restroom area, hanging out in the breezeway. The last thing we want is homeless, you know. Yeah. Homeless people, you know, camping out at the chapel and on the breezeway area. So
Me and my cost-cutting procedures now, okay, I'm gonna make everyone go crazy with this. I'm looking at this, trying to be, is there a way that we can have potentially something for the parking lot and then maybe just a gate for the bathrooms, exactly. So I'm trying to cut costs any way we can now. I'm gonna be like the.
We could. The landscape architect in me and the aesthetic person, I would rather have that continuous fencing on the front, but yes, to answer your question, we could narrow it down and just have a gate where the restroom is. So I'll do whatever you guys, whatever the board wants.
Gate.
Leaving it up to the rest of the board,
That's what you
because
put up on the front. It's just protecting, just
Keeping people out,
keep them out of what?
out of the yard there.
Keep them out of
The yard, the parking lot, and, you know,
They can get behind.
we designed,
there's
the restroom has always been a concern for us because, you know,
Yeah, I can understand that.
we worry about people hanging out or even spending the night in the restroom, so we got some measures. The fence would be an added deterrent, I think, along with the cameras and some other things we put in place to kind of stop that, be kind of proactive, you know, with lighting and some things of that nature to just kind of make it not as attractive for people to hang out, vandalize, and, you know, do other unwanted things in that area.
Have a motion or any more questions?
I'm not gonna, if I make a motion, I'm gonna say no. So I'm just throwing it out there.
Well, we've spent a lot of money on that chapel and in that area, and I think if we need to put something there to protect it and secure it, which is what we had to do out at the recreation, at the playground and at the splash pad, we finally got to the point it was not a want, it had to be a need because of the vandalism, and that's the trend right now is the, I don't know why.
Every weekend, I told my staff, it's just one of those things that we just gonna have to, part of routine maintenance, dealing with vandalism over the weekend come Monday. So it's just an ongoing thing every weekend.
What kind of vandalism y'all had this week?
So this weekend, we had, of course, somebody is always going to climb the fence where the playground is while we're trying to complete it. And I know everybody's kind of impatient, but, you know, we're trying to do some things there utility-wise. But they kicked in the door in the concession building. And something else happened. I can't remember what it was. It was like 3 things this weekend
Can we get
that I was
some
called
questions, you know
about.
why?
Can we get some what?
Never mind.
I think, so cameras are in the budget this time around. I want to say the cameras are going to be a big deterrent because police department will have access and we'll be able to actually catch some people doing the vandalism, so.
Okay, any other questions?
I do have now one, again, Madam Mayor. So this fence is only 4 feet high, so this is not gonna stop them either.
Yes.
Well, it's going to slow them down. We would have went 6 feet, but you know, and and originally I said 6 feet, but my staff said, LaMarco, that's going to look like a prison fence. So we want something that looks nice, you know. It's a security fence, but it also enhances the chapel. So, but I understand Commissioner Scarrotti.
I mean,
I'm not good at that fence though. 4 feet, you know.
It works.
You think it's gonna work, LaMarco? The 4 feet?
I think it is.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna trust you. I'm gonna trust you on that.
Okay.
Even up to you guys.
You'll
All
make
right.
a motion?
So I'm gonna make a motion that we, what's that thing called?
We approve budget amendment number 36.
Approve budget amendment number 36.
Do I have a
We have
second?
one at the bathroom.
You know,
Well,
Marty.
I want to just stand by for a minute.
All right.
Someone-
I didn't.
Hurry up, Commissioner Marley.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, sir.
we've got a lot of money invested in that chapel over there. So I'm gonna make a motion that we protect it and approve discharge of, what is it, $9,763?
Yeah, you'd be the second for the
Yeah, the
motion.
second.
Commissioner Mitchell made the
I'll
motion.
second.
You're the second the motion.
Yeah,
Yep.
I mean, only because LaMarco made, it says it's a good idea. I'm gonna have my spy camera out though. I'm gonna be watching.
Okay, we've got a motion to approve the $9,800 for the fence for security and safety at the chapel, which would be budget amendment number 36. And all those in favor signify by raising your right hand. All opposed? 1, so it's 4 to 1. Thank
It's
you.
gonna happen. Told you.
Okay. All right, the next thing on our agenda is, that takes care of all of our items off the consent agenda. The next thing we have is a manager's report. Do we have any questions for the manager? Is there any other, we've already done that. Yeah, we're here, you there? Any questions for the manager's report or anything you want to add more to?
Is it on?
I like the format.
That's what I was gonna say. The format being decorative now allows us to take this manager's report and post it on our admin page as a document, a PDF. And I'd like to definitely highlight our fire department that participated in the Celebrate the Parade, or the Camp Celebrate Parade on May 19th, tied to in support of children who are burn victims. I also sent out something in the last couple of weeks about a suicide prevention and a service member veteran family fun day. We sent it through the Veteran Affairs Committee. Lamarco Morrison, Parks and Rec Director, and I walked the site today. We have confirmed the event. It'll be on August 19th. They're doing a call for supplies that'll go through August 4th. The only thing they're ultimately asking of the town is the utilization of the back parking lot. But we're going to support them in helping them to advertise the flyers and things of that nature. We have agreed to link them with CERT for to assist with volunteer efforts and to see if we can actually get more veteran-based vendors to come out in support of the event as well. So you'll see us starting to post the flyers for that, but I wanted to highlight that since we just finalized that today. That's it for me.
And just to add to that, this Friday, we have the Stewards of Children training, which is at
That's correct.
at 2.
Yes.
At 2.
That's for our commissioners and, is it town administration too, or, yeah, okay. So that's on, and that's through the Child Advocacy Center, and this is again helping to prevent abuse for our children. And this is a very good program. We're trying to get it through all the departments in town so that everybody has that training. So that's a
Madam
good
Mayor?
thing. Yes, sir?
I haven't been to that class yet that's put on by this group, but I've probably been to 10 or 12 of them that was sponsored by Dixie Youth Baseball over the years. Do I need to take that again?
Yes, in order for us to get credit for it through the Child Advocacy Center, we all have to have it.
Yes, and there's a gold seal that we will receive as a town, as a part of us participating in that actually makes us a municipality that is an advocate for child abuse victims.
All right, I'll have to get on that list then.
And the other thing that there is available through Child Advocacy, but we've been invited to as a board, and that is it's called Sextortion, the Hidden Pandemic, and this is actually to show us how we can keep our kids safe in a digital world, and it's going to be offered at Methodist University, and I do have the QR codes that they sent me, so that you can go, the professional screening is 1 to 4, or you can go the public screening from 6 to 8. So whichever one you could fit into, you could go to if you want to. I have scheduled myself to go, so representing the town.
Do you have that digitally?
Huh?
Do you have that digitally?
This is all that I have but I can give this to you. Just
Get that to me and I'll
you
help.
just have to scan it and you're
Okay,
good.
got it.
Okay, that's all I have. Anything else? Any other questions for the town manager? All right, then we have committee liaison. We'll go through those. Commissioner Marley, do you have anything from Historic Preservation?
Yes, ma'am. They met, May 10th was the last meeting. They have, from what I understand, they have purchased or ordered a quilted piano cover for the newly restored piano to protect it. They're working on catalog and placement of items. I know they've been working with the town manager on that, and I've seen email threads back and forth. trying to secure a date for that. They have started, they're trying to organize a cemetery grave headstone cleaning project, and they are trying to plan a Harvest Home Festival that I believe is going to be in September, okay. September, do you know the date? Okay, I'll get that date, but I know they are planning a Harvest Home Festival for September, and that's all.
I was just getting ready to say that, Mrs. Craver. I would like to add to Commissioner Marlin's report. We have confirmed Wednesday at 10 a.m. at the Parks and Recs building. If you recall, I mentioned to some of you guys that I talked to members of the HPC about ways to possibly deal with the inventory of their goods. And so Parks and Rec agreed to house some of those items, but we have all agreed to meet at 10 a.m. Wednesday at Parks and Rec, and I feel that the goal is for us to assist them in that effort so we can kind of come up with a pretty cool way of us coming together to help with that inventory, and ultimately what we decide that is something that needs to be historically displayed. I'd like to put them in contact with the Parks and Rec department, and for us to work with HPC to figure out ways to display those in the chapel. But this Wednesday at 10 a.m. is the time that we're asking anybody interested to come out in support of this endeavor.
Okay. Next, we have Commissioner Mitchell with Appearance Commission and RULAC.
Didn't make no meetings, just kidding. First, Appearance Committee is commissioning. They are going to plan a joint meeting so they can come together collectively and make some sound decisions on Christmas decorations and as well as fall activities. And I think they are going to try to do that this month with the next upcoming meetings. Went to the RULAC meeting on May the 18th. Very good information. Had a gentleman by the name of Zan Moreau. He's the CEO of Longleaf Pine Realtors, and he educated us that there is a major housing shortage. I mean, extremely. There's a couple of reasons why. A lack of construction workers, material costs, local government permitting process, and government land use regulations, and that's just a few. And I don't know if something that we might want to consider, but I'm gonna tell you, it would be interesting for him to come before this board and give a briefing to the citizens about the extreme major housing shortfall in areas. It's not just this area. This is a nationwide housing shortfall, and the demand is there, and so is the cost, and that is not going to be no relief. And I think, and there is a North Carolina Defense Summit in Raleigh on September the 26th and 27th, and I asked, I'm planning on going, and I mentioned to Dr. Like Dr. McCree, but Joanne Scarola, because it's actually, I went last year. And I went as part of the RULAC, but I think it's a good idea if this board can possibly make it and go there and check it out. Some pretty good information. Last year, I don't think the governor was there, but you had some of our House legislators there, and they gave a very informative briefing about the impact of defense in our areas.
Okay.
That's it.
Next, we have Dr. Joanne Scarola, Commissioner Scarola with Veterans Affairs.
Got the mayor all flustered. Look at that. Call me. No. So, Madam Mayor, the Veterans Affairs Committee did not have a meeting. They canceled their meeting. The next meeting will be June 22nd.
Okay. All right, Mayor Pro Tem, Dr. McCray, Parks and Rec, and Prime Movers.
Prime Movers were supposed to meet on Thursday, but did not because they did not have enough people for a quorum on Parks and Rec, we met on May 22nd. And Heritage Park, the town was anticipating the completion of their archaeological data report, and that was supposed to have been submitted by the end of May, because this was May 22nd. The splash pad and the playground, we know that people are anticipating being able to use those things, but they are hoping by the beginning or the middle of July that it will be open. And we talked about the sports complex at the golf course property, but that was what was presented in our last board meeting. Looking at the budget, one event that was cut was the Old Mill Day. The dinner for the mill workers will stay. The cotton pageant has been removed, and the trunk and treat will be revamped to spend less money on candy, and they will be asking the participants to contribute their own candy. As it relates to programming, our summer camps, weeks 1 and 2 were full with waiting lists. There was some room for weeks 3 and 8 if people are looking for camps to put their children or grandchildren in. And Herring Park, they're looking to take it down because the playground is dangerous, and there's a lot of vandalism and graffiti there as well. And looking at our revised Parks and Rec ordinance, the park hours are 7 a.m. to dusk, and there is more detailed language about the dogs at the lake unless they are on the trail, and service dogs are allowed. I believe that is all I had, Madam Mayor.
All righty. I had the Mid-Carolina Council meeting, and with that, and also my senior Tar Heel Legislative meeting, what I've got is some handouts that they gave us. I'm going to share that with Parks and Rec, but my understanding is that they'll provide these as handouts for our seniors. But it's just a lot of classes, and a lot of them like nutrition for caregivers, a dementia seminar. But these are all geared toward either senior citizens or caregivers for the senior citizens. They also gave us the demographics for Cumberland, Harnett, and Sampson County, because we're all three together. And it was interesting because when they started looking at or below poverty level, we have identified 782 seniors in Cumberland County that are at or below poverty level and that are require extra care. So I think that's, again, there's a lot of information here that I thought I'd just make copies or give to Parks and Rec, especially for the events, because it's probably not an event unless you have someone that you're a caregiver for that you would want to be worried with. The other thing that I went to was FAMPO, and I did send the commissioners kind of an update of where we are. The main thing is right now, since the biggest concern has been what's happening on Rockfish and Goffview, right now it's called preliminary work. They're doing the moving of utilities, and you're going to see that going on. My understanding is it may finish this week, but they're moving the utility poles, and they're doing a lot of that. And then the other thing was I-295, the leg from Goffview out to Camden Road, which connects then to Rayford Road. That area right there, projected time for the completion, they'll have more information for us. But the good news is, with FAMPO, things are moving along, those funded projects. Other than that, that's all I have. Any staff comments?
I would just like to comment, I will be celebrating my 5th anniversary with the town on the 11th, and this is the first meeting that I've had an operational microphone. So I would just like to thank the board for approving this project.
I will echo that sentiment as well, as myself, Jane, and our town attorney have been the voiceless over here on the side for quite a while.
Now I can tell my wife I don't really need to hearing aid, right?
I'll just note briefly, unless something changes, which I don't anticipate it will, I will be in trial the meeting of June 20th, so I'll have an associate here to cover it.
Okay. And that is a change from a Monday night meeting. We will be meeting on June 20th. Anything else for the good? If not?
Madam Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Before I say those words, I won't be here June 20th. I've got to go to Kentucky. I'm supposed to go to Florida, but
okay.
First things
we
first.
Understand.
If the board will approve me of
Yes, it's approved naturally.
Denied.
What are you talking about then?
Any other information? All right, this time, do we have a motion?
Motion to adjourn?
Okay, motion to adjourn. We have a second, I'm sure, and all know that this has been a very productive meeting, but it's been a long meeting, too.
Longest one we had, I think.
Have a good rest of your week. Your head hurts.
Yeah, I got